Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, American Comics. Becoming a Dimension Mephisto Will Cause Trouble. Chapter 91. New York, Hell's Kitchen. Dad came here with Jackie Chan holding the magic weapon and the prepared potion. As soon as the two of them got out of the car with their bags packed, Agent Chin came to the two of them. It's not safe here. I think you need a bodyguard. Dad raised his head and glanced at Hell's Kitchen. The evil here is overflowing. Help Dad stop the little fools here and don't let them disturb Dad's cooking. Agent Chin replied. Don't worry, I have already made arrangements. Dad nodded with satisfaction, and then said to Jackie Chan, Okay, let's go now, Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan followed his father's footsteps with a big bag. Dad, it's not good for us to face Mephisto directly. We should wait for Tony and the others. After all, Iron Man and the others can also help us. Dad turned around and used his sword. Dad has said many times that magic can be defeated by magic. An ordinary person who has lost the power of Ghost Rider, a playboy who relies on steel armor, and a magician who has some means but not much apprentice, they will only get in the way. However, Tony, who arrived in time, disagreed with these words. Master Fang, your words are biased. Although we can't help you deal with Mephisto, we can still deal with other helpers. Iron Man fell from the sky, and a motorcycle stopped beside them. The visitors were none other than Tony and Johnny. As for Danny's mother Nadia, considering the chaos in Hell's Kitchen, everyone still didn't let her come here. Tony opened his visor. Master Fang, where is the Ancient One magician? If something like this happened, he should be able to survive. The father glanced at Tony. The Ancient One magician was held back by the Holy Lord, so Mephisto was given this opportunity. Before the Ancient One magician got rid of the Holy Lord, we could only rely on us here. Tony was a little surprised. Master Fang, you actually agreed to our help. In response, Dad snorted dissatisfied. Even if I don't admit it, Dad, are you obedient people? Let's go quickly and resolve this matter as soon as possible. We can't let Mephisto's ceremony be completed. Dad has already, I feel it, the power of darkness is getting stronger and stronger. The situation was urgent, so no one said anything more. Because Agent Chin did not explain this operation to S.H.I.E.L.D., he cannot directly participate in it at the moment and can only help cover it outside. Therefore, I can only give my hope to my father and others. In a dark factory, it belongs to a black-hearted capitalist. There used to be many murders here, but in the end they were suppressed because of the boss's power and money, and they were not known to outsiders. But what no one knows is that the owner of this factory is actually a believer of Mephisto. He once signed a contract with Mephisto. Mephisto extended his life, and he dedicated his loyalty to serve Mephisto in the world. Because of the unique atmosphere of Hell's Kitchen, this factory is also an altar specially built by Mephisto for today. The place farthest from heaven must be the darkest place. Hundreds of innocent undead were sold under this factory. In this place, Mephisto can exert more powerful power, and at the same time, his plan to come to the world using Danny's body as a carrier will be smoother. Deep underground in the factory, a huge amounts of cavity has been excavated. The entire cavity is extremely strangely arranged. Broken corpses are inlaid on the surrounding walls. A bloody magic circle is carved on the ground. Countless strange symbols and portraits also fill the entire space. In the center, surrounded by dozens of people wearing black hoods whose faces could not be seen clearly, was a pool of blood that covered their calves. At the moment, when Dad and others broke through the defense outside, Mephisto and Danny were already performing ritual actions in the blood pool. As the two people's movements became more and more synchronized, the runes and magic circles covered in the entire underground space suddenly bloomed with blood-colored brilliance, and the blood in the blood pool followed those marks and covered them. However, the blood-like substance in the blood pool did not decrease at all, and even began to boil, constantly covering the bodies of Mephisto and Danny. At this moment, a shout suddenly came from above everyone's heads. Here! They are here! The ceremony was interrupted, and Mephisto's eyes, already filled with darkness at the moment, looked coldly towards Carrigan, who was bored in the corner. Carrigan stood up from the ground dissatisfied. I'll stop them. Watching Carrigan leave, Mephisto nodded with satisfaction and continued his ritual. Mephisto himself is also very dissatisfied with this cumbersome ritual, but the defense that the Ancient One has arranged for the earth is too thick. If he wants to descend, he must rely on this ritual. Otherwise, why would he bother to make so many calculations? He has been preparing for this moment for more than 10 years. The more times like this, the more he must be calm and not make any mistakes. Sometimes he even felt that fate was helping him. After all, the Holy Lord who suddenly appeared could help him stop the Ancient One, and he only had to pay a small price. Anyway, Ghost Rider is not obedient. Although Johnny's Ghost Rider is very special, he has not seen him go crazy after so many years. If the Holy Lord wants it, then give it to him. Moreover, as an expert in playing with souls, he can see the current situation of the Holy Lord at a glance. If another soul appears in that body, he can also contain the Holy Lord very well. Lord, you won't let him turn against you after he succeeds, and you will have one more backdoor to counter him. On the ground, in the dark factory, Tony relied on the convenience and power of the armor to directly use the Dragoon system to eliminate all the mercenaries and bodyguards. Although their weapons are very good, they have no power to fight back against Tony's dimensionality reduction attack. Dad was very satisfied with this result. You can indeed be of great help in dealing with mortals. Tony didn't pay attention to his father's praise, and just asked in confusion, Dad, are you sure they are here? I have already scanned it, and there is no one else here except these people. Dad holds the magic weapon. Sometimes the eyes can deceive you. There is an exquisite hidden magic circle set up here, which can confuse everyone, including your equipment. If you want to find the right path, you need to use the power of magic. Quote. As he said that, my father started to use his magic. Go away quickly, go away. Go away, go away. Go away, go away. With the green magic energy emerging, it instantly shot towards the employee lounge next to it. In an instant, the hidden magic circle was broken. The layout of the employee lounge immediately changed people's mood. The entire employee lounge was suddenly covered in countless blood, and the shocking traces made one can imagine how many brutal murders had occurred here. And in the deepest part of the employee lounge, there is a dark whirlpool that makes people frightened, as if just staring at the whirlpool, even their own souls will be sucked away. Dad, there. Dad's eyes were full of anger. Using lives and souls as consumables, I don't know how many innocent souls are buried here. Dad is really angry this time. After hearing what Dad said, the others were immediately filled with anger. However, just as everyone was filled with indignation, Carrigan rushed out of the black whirlpool. When he saw everyone, especially when Johnny was there, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Are you here to disturb the master's ceremony? Just let me get rid of you caterpillars. With that said, Carrigan rushed towards everyone. Careful, Carrigan can corrupt everything, don't let him touch you. Tony blocked Carrigan's attack by firing a line, and loudly stated the opponent's ability. Upon hearing this, everyone immediately dispersed. Although the rays fired by Tony were full of attack power, Carrigan easily dodged them. After all, after receiving the gift from Mephisto, Carrigan's whole person had already undergone earth-shaking changes. Not only has the ability to corrode everything, but his physical fitness has also been enhanced. Seeing everyone disperse and shoot at him, Carrigan tilted his head and smiled evilly, then rushed towards the queen next to him. Johnny was shocked when he saw Carrigan attacking him. He quickly rolled to the ground and avoided Carrigan's pounce. At the same time, under the cover of others, he successfully avoided Carrigan's attack and arrive in the employee lounge. Looking at the black whirlpool, Johnny bit his teeth and threw himself into it without hesitation. Seeing Johnny's actions, his father said angrily, "That's too reckless. What else can he do if he loses his power?" Carrigan saw Johnny entering to die. He smiled silently, and then looked at Iron Man again. "I can always see your news on TV. Why, now that our playboy is no longer satisfied with maintaining world peace, do you still want to protect Hehu from hell?" After making a joke, Carrigan kept approaching Iron Man from left to right. However, Iron Man at the moment's performance was very poor. With the help of artificial intelligence, Carrigan actually succeeded in breaking in front of him. "Be careful," the others only had time to shout out, before they saw Carrigan had already raised his palm and grabbed Iron Man. "I got you, the famous Mr. Stark, feel the pain of growing old. Ha 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 ha." However, the next moment, Carrigan discovered that Iron Man had not changed at all, and his laughter stopped abruptly. Seeing that the Iron Man in front of him was not affected by his ability and did not change at all, Carrigan panicked instantly. Why? Why haven't you been corrupted? This is impossible. While shouting in panic that it was impossible, Carrigan grabbed Iron Man's arm hard. However, to his disappointment, Iron Man was still not injured at all, as if Carrigan's ability had failed. Tony sneered. Ever since I discovered your ability, I have been studying how to restrain it. Now it seems that my idea is not wrong. Your corrosion ability is actually a consumption of time on an object, allowing an object can span dozens or hundreds of years in just a short moment, and the longer the contact time, the longer the object can span. When Carrigan heard this, he seemed to have remembered something. He immediately lowered his head and looked at Iron Man's arm that he had grabbed. Sure enough, at some point, a layer of transparent plastic film had been attached to Iron Man's arm. As an artificial product that is difficult to degrade, although in reality is pollution, for Carrigan, this is his biggest nemesis. Tony raised his hand and fired a beam at close range. Now, you slave of hell, go back to hell. With a bang, Carrigan was blown away, and a shocking scorch appeared on his chest. When Carrigan was hit by this impact, his eyes were filled with stars, and he could no longer stand up. While Carrigan was distracted, Jackie Chan and Morrow rushed out from the side, carrying 2 rolls of plastic film and quickly wrapped up Carrigan. After seeing Carrigan wrapped like a mummy, Tony showed off to his father. Master Fang, how about it? Science is still useful, right? Dad nodded. As long as it is used in the right place. However, we should stop Mephista's ritual as soon as possible. Johnny is alone. I don't think he can sustain it. Jackie Chan pointed at Carrigan, who was unable to move on the ground, and asked, Dad, how can he be recruited? At this time, a magic passage appeared around everyone, and a black magician walked out of it. He left it to us. Sorcerer Supreme asked me to help you. As soon as he finished speaking, several more magicians came out. The black magician came to his father. Hello, Master Fang, my name is Modu, I am the magician of Kamar-Taj. The father glanced at the 2 magicians behind Modu, shook his head and said, Modu magician, Mephisto are not ordinary opponents. Their strength cannot resist the invasion of darkness. Please let them go back. A flash of dissatisfaction flashed across Modu's face, but he still endured it. He looked at Tuawai and others aside. Can they resist the invasion of darkness? Dad replied, people whose fates are intertwined are like yin and yang, they are opposite existences. They and Mephisto are originally in an opposite situation, so they can naturally resist Mephisto's bewitchment. Moreover, I think the Ancient One magician should let Modo magician assisted us without letting anyone else get involved. The words have been made very clear. Dad does not believe that the 2 magicians behind Mordu can resist Mephisto's bewitchment. After all, there are not a few magicians in Kamar-Taj who are bewitched by darkness and then join the darkness. As for the yin and yang explained by Dad, that is just far-fetched. Using chi magic, he can clearly see a person's fate. Tony and others are all righteous. As long as nothing happens, no evil can affect them. But among the 3 magicians in front of them, Modu's fate is chaos, with no good or bad features, while the fates of the 2 magicians are full of uncertainty, indicating that they themselves are also uncertain. As for why Mordo wanted to bring 2 magicians together, the experienced father naturally knew it well. But what makes him feel incredible is that things have reached such a crisis in the world, and the magician of Kamar-Taj is still using this little trick to play a game of power. To be honest, he couldn't understand what the Ancient One magician wanted to do. Modu's face was a little ugly, but at this time, he couldn't hold on anymore, so after whispering a few instructions to the 2 people behind him, he asked them to go back with Carrigan, who was sealed by the plastic film. So, what should we do next? Master Fang. Mordo's yin and yang aura did not affect his father's mood, but for Tony and others, although his father was sometimes a little old-fashioned and stubborn, he was definitely a respectable old man. The other party disrespected his father so much. Naturally, it made them feel unhappy. Sensing the discord within the team, Dad shook his head helplessly, feeling that Ancient One had made a wrong move. But the situation is urgent, and he has nothing to worry about anymore. Now the Ancient One magician is restrained by the Holy Lord. If Mephista's plan really succeeds, then the earth will be completely exposed to the eyes of hell, and the Ancient One magician, the defensive lines deployed will also lose any effect. After hearing their father describe the current emergency situation, Tony and others immediately put aside their dissatisfaction and listened intently to their father's arrangements. After dealing with Carrigan, Mephisto's general, he must face Mephisto, the Lord of Hell himself. He must not act rashly. As for Johnny's recklessness, it can only be said to be an accident. Modu's originally relaxed attitude suddenly changed when he heard that the Ancient One was being restrained by the Holy Lord. He never thought that the invincible Sorcerer Supreme would encounter someone with equal strength to him. Master Fang, who is the Holy Master who restrains the Sorcerer Supreme? Tony was extremely dissatisfied with this magician who was very proud when he appeared. Where did you come from with so many problems? This is a very critical situation, and this is not the time for you to play house. If you are here to help, then just follow the arrangements. If you are here to cause trouble, then well, I can't help with the next actions anyway, I can be your opponent. Iron Man, Tony Stark. Being reviled like this, Mordo, who was respected and accustomed to awe in Kamar-Taj, immediately became angry. In his opinion, as the successor of Kamar-Taj, in his own opinion, he should get due respect. Although his father is a magician that even the Ancient One respects, he does not really think that his father is such a great person. Magician, after all, when it comes to magic, Kamar-Taj is the orthodoxy. After receiving the order from the Ancient One, he came to support his father and the others, so what if he brought two familiar subordinates for training? He was also questioned about Kamar-Taj's magician's weak will. Next, he heard about the Holy Lord who could contain the Ancient One. So what if he asked out of curiosity? Shouldn't he answer his questions? These people have no respect for Kamar-Taj's contribution to protecting the Earth for countless years, but ignore his existence. Seeing Tony and Mordo arguing, Dad only felt annoyed. Then he stood up and said to Jackie Chan and Moro, "Let Tony negotiate with him, let's go down quickly, we have been delayed here for a long time." Dad took Jackie Chan and Moro toward the Black Vortex, while Tony was responsible for keeping Moro here. He felt that if Modu followed, it would definitely be a big trouble. Since he couldn't do anything now, it was better to contain this big trouble. As for Mordo, he was so preoccupied with arguing with Tony at the moment that he didn't even notice that his father and the others were leaving. If Dad knew about this, he could only say that the Ancient One protected these magicians very well. After walking through the black whirlpool, the three fathers immediately discovered that it was a mess inside. Johnny wasn't even seriously injured and held Danny in his arms. In front of Johnny, Sky and Jade were standing majestically on the ground, confronting Mephisto with a gloomy face. "Xiao Yu." Jackie Chan was shocked. "Didn't I tell you and Sky to stay at home? How did you get here?" Xiao Yu pointed to the stairs in the corner. "Take the stairs." Everyone looked toward the corner, and sure enough, there was a staircase hanging down from above. Mephisto's face turned even darker. Who designed this place to leave such a loophole? Wait, Jackie Chan suddenly discovered why Xiao Yu was standing with Sky. "Xiao Yu, could you?" Xiao Yu turned around with a smile and opened her palms. "That's right, Uncle Long, I brought the talisman. Now I am Super Xiao Yu." Looking at the rabbit talisman in Xiao Yu's hand, Jackie Chan felt discouraged. "Xiao Yu, you can't play with the talisman." However, the father hit Jackie Chan on the head with a knife. "Now is not the time to talk about this. Jackie Chan, get the spell from Xiao Yu and prepare to fight." Jackie Chan groaned and immediately ran to Xiao Yu, and then got the life talisman and my neighbor Totoro curse from Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu used the power of the chicken charm to levitate in the air. The new dragon team has assembled. Mephisto stared at the people in front of him with an ugly expression. It was clear that the ceremony was almost over, but he didn't expect Xiao Yu and Sky to suddenly rush in. The two of them not only rescued Danny and Johnny, but also relied on their extraordinary strength to knock down their followers around them in one fell swoop. Although he is the Lord of Hell, due to the forced blockade of the Ancient One, his power to penetrate the earth is not as powerful as imagined, so plan was ruined by two little girls for a while. The angry Mephisto held up his hands, and his whole person changed instantly. The well-fitting white suit on his body was directly crushed by the swollen body. Two horns grew out of his forehead, his feet turned into sheep's hooves, his skin became blood red, his nails were sharp, his muscles bulged, his upper body was bare, and he had a cloak like a flame. Then shake it behind him. Originally, Mephisto was not someone who liked to use force. For him, he preferred to use wisdom to harvest souls to achieve his own goals. However, he had been planning this plan for more than 10 years, and he was about to harvest the fruits, and then let his true body come to the earth. Unexpectedly, he was beaten by a group of people with unknown origins. More importantly, these people are not famous at all, let alone powerful beings, and their plans were ruined by a group of minions in their own eyes. This is a shameful mockery of the wisdom that Mephisto is proud of. Moreover, since things have come to this point, he doesn't mind using some force. Mephisto, who transformed into a demon body, is nearly 3 meters tall. In the eyes of Jackie Chan and others, he looks like a little giant. Moreover, the other party's ferocious face is filled with an evil smile, and his fingers are shining with blood, which shows Mephisto's terrifying power. Ants, let me harvest your souls myself. Mephisto smiled evilly and drew his fingers into blades, tearing them towards everyone. Despite Mephisto's huge size, his movements are not clumsy at all, but rather very sharp. Therefore, in the face of this blow, Mephisto's movements were really fast and cruel, and Jackie Chan and others could only avoid it in embarrassment. However, in the closed space underground, they escaped, and Dad, Johnny and Danny, who were protected behind them, were exposed to Mephisto. However, fortunately, Sky was present. As a person who received the teachings of Tianji King Hexi every night, she learned not only knowledge but also an understanding of combat. Therefore, while dodging Mephisto's attack, he stretched out towards Mephisto from the distance. The invisible shock wave instantly hit Mephisto's huge body, sending it flying away. While you are sick, I will kill you. Sky's first attack was effective. As soon as everyone's feet stabilized, they used their own methods to attack Mephisto. Moro held the gun, and a powerful bullet landed on Mephisto's bloody skin. Jackie Chan naturally did not have the speed of a bullet, so as he approached Mephisto, he raised his left hand. The dragon talisman was activated instantly, and the hot flame energy hit Mephisto's body hard. Xiao Yu quickly flew behind Mephisto, her feet constantly landing on Mephisto's body. Although their attacks are different, it is obvious that the only ones that are really lethal to Mephisto are Sky's previous shockwave and Jackie Chan's dragon talisman. As for Moro, the physics priest, his gun obviously cannot have any impact on Mephisto. As for Xiao Yu, without the huge power given by the Ox Talisman, her shadowless feet could not cause harm to Mephisto. However, at least from a sensory perspective, the four people's reasonable cooperation resulted in a good offensive. Mephisto stood up from being suppressed and was knocked down by 4 mortals. For him, this was a great shame. In anger, Mephisto immediately turned into a bloody wind and killed Jackie Chan and the others. The sharp claws tore through the air, and hot flames spurted out from Mephisto's mouth. Because only 2 people were effective against his attack, the battle situation was instantly reversed. Dad looked at it and shook his head. Mo Luo, Dad, here is a bottle of enchanting potion. Pour it on your weapon to cause damage to the devil. Moro immediately took a bottle of potion from his father and quickly poured it on the gun in his hand. In an instant, his thin magic power felt the magic power of justice on the gun in his hand. With the artifact in hand, Moro immediately raised the weapon and poured out his anger towards Mephisto. The bullets with green magic energy finally broke through Mephisto's defense. Then there were streaks of hot blood splashed on his body. Dad threw another bottle of potion to Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu, put the potion on your hand and capture Mephisto's magic power. Yes, Dad. Xiao Yu immediately followed her father's orders. Under the control of Sky, Jackie Chan and Moro, Xiao Yu activated the invisibility energy of the snake charm and quietly came to Mephisto's back. The hands filled with magical energy instantly reached into Mephisto's vagina. I am already very proficient in this kind of thing. Having the experience of retrieving a talisman from the Holy Lord, this time, Xiao Yu easily pulled out a red magic power directly from Mephisto's body without Mephisto noticing. As the red magic power was drawn out, Mephisto was shocked to find that his projection duplication could no longer display the ability to control flames. When he noticed something was wrong, he immediately felt something strange behind him. In anger, the cloak surged like a rolling wave, trying to wrap Xiao Yu behind him directly into it. Fortunately, Xiao Yu noticed it in time and immediately retreated, avoiding Mephisto's attack. After waiting for Jackie Chan, Xiaoyu exited the invisibility state in a showy manner, raised the red magic in her hand and said, "Look, I took away his fire magic." Mephisto looked at the red magic power with bloodshot eyes. That was his magic power, and now it was stolen. "I will burn your soul in the fires of hell for thousands of years." At this time, Danny, who was protected by Johnny in his arms, suddenly said, "Can you give me that magic power?" Xiaoyu looked at Danny in surprise. This boy, who was about the same age as her, had an extraordinary temperament at the moment. "What do you want this magic power for?" "Wait, you're not going to give this magic power to Mephisto, are you? You were almost possessed by Mephisto just now, are there any side effects?" After all, Xiaoyu and her father had seen many such scenes, and coupled with their own good abilities, they quickly got a very reasonable answer. After getting this answer, Xiaoyu was even less likely to give Danny the magic power she had finally stolen. Johnny also heard Xiaoyu's words, and his expression instantly became tense. "Danny, are you really okay?" Danny shook his head. "It's okay, it's just that I thought you might need this power." The two looked at each other, and both saw what the other was thinking. The invisible tacit understanding was reached instantly, and Johnny looked at Xiaoyu firmly. "Listen to him." Xiaoyu had no idea what was going on between the two of them, and she was not familiar with them, so how could she listen to Johnny's opinion? However, the father who was silently doing this suddenly said, "Xiaoyu, give your magic power to this Trask." Xiaoyu was extremely surprised. "Dad." Dad closed his eyes tightly and kept saying, "This is the opinion of the Ancient One Magician and the choice of fate. If we want to win, completely defeat Mephisto, and reseal the Holy Lord, we must do this." Hearing this explanation, Xiaoyu regretfully handed the red magic power in her hand to Danny. "Okay, I'll give it to you, but don't use it to do bad things." Danny stretched out his hand, and the red magic energy instantly merged into his body. "Of course not." Mephisto, who was struggling with Jackie Chan and others, saw this scene and instantly became angry. "You will never be allowed to do this." The terrifying hot breath exploded instantly, sending the three Jackie Chan men surrounding him flying away instantly. At the same time, Mephisto also seized the time and rushed towards Danny. "Bring it on." However, Mephisto was still a step too late. Johnny roared, and Danny instantly jumped on Johnny's head. Hot flames spurted out from Danny's mouth, constantly burning Johnny's head. "Ah ah 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 ah." A painful roar came from Johnny's mouth. At the same time, Johnny felt as if time had been stopped, but he could still feel the passage of time. But for Johnny, this is definitely not a wonderful feeling, but a heartbreaking pain, a pain that goes deep into his heart. Scenes from the past kept reappearing in his mind, and the contract that had been abandoned was signed again. The feeling of selling his soul to the devil, for Johnny, was the most painful torture for his faith, and even more so. Needless to say, for the sake of this contract, he abandoned how many things that were most precious to him. The hot flames with the smell of sulfur kept washing over Johnny's skin, and Johnny felt his skin being burned bit by the flames, turning it into coke and ashes. That kind of pain, even though Johnny has transformed so many times, he still can't get used to this kind of pain. When Danny finished breathing out the flames, he instantly lost strength and fell to the ground, closing his eyes tightly and passed out. And Johnny at the moment was still enduring the pain caused by the burning, and black smoke kept rising from Johnny's head. Mephisto looked at Johnny's painful wailing, and he stopped, with disbelief on his face. "You. How dare you, that's my power." Driven by anger, Mephisto slapped him away. Johnny, who had not yet completed his transformation, was instantly hit deep into the wall by this slap. Mephisto walked toward the unconscious Danny full of anger. "You were my child, why did you betray me?" Moro hit Mephisto with a shuttle, stopping his progress. "If you want his life, can't he resist?" Mephisto looked at Moro with serious eyes. "Human priest. You should not be involved in this matter." As he spoke, he prepared to use hell energy to capture Moro's soul. However, the time the two sides talked was enough for others to rush over to support. Jackie Chan activated the cow charm and knocked Mephisto away with one punch. "Dad, are your magic not ready yet?" Sky used the shock wave to suppress Mephisto's getting up. "Dad, we can't hold on for long at all." Dad didn't pay any attention to what the two of them said, he just closed his eyes tightly and kept chanting the spell silently. This magic was provided by the Ancient One. It was too unfamiliar to Dad. Although he had undergone certain transformations, after all, it was completely different from Kamar-Taj's magician, but after all, the time was too short, so it took time to prepare. Just longer. Mephisto angrily stood up from the ground against the shock wave. After such a long time of fighting, Mephisto has gradually become accustomed to the shock wave's attack. Coupled with Sky's physical exertion, the shock wave's suppression of him has become more and more intense. Doesn't work anymore. Mephisto roared and drove the hell energy in his body to shoot towards everyone. The energy rays with the sulfur smell made everyone have no choice but to dodge, especially Sky, who was heavily attacked by Mephisto. It became increasingly difficult for him to have time to use shock waves to fight back. Johnny, give me my power back. Mephisto attacked everyone while striding towards Johnny, who was struggling and wailing in pain. Faced with this situation, everyone was helpless and could only watch Mephisto's actions. Finally, Mephisto walked up to Johnny. Countless black smoke obscured his sight, but he could feel his magic power underneath the smoke. My power, come back to my body. Mephisto reached out and grabbed Johnny's head, which was smoking black, and lifted it up from the ground. In an instant, red magic surged and returned directly from Johnny's body to Mephisto's body. Ha 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 ha. Laughing, scorching flames instantly burst out around Mephisto, and at the same time, boiling lava spread from the soles of Mephisto's feet to the surroundings. Xiao Yu covered her cheeks. Oh. No. Jackie Chan was also helpless. It's really unlucky. It seems we are going to fail. Panting, Sky stretched out her hand to release a shock wave, but it was blocked by the flames around Mephisto and the magma that rose instantly. Moro was even more miserable. As the most ordinary existence among the people, he had fallen to the ground covered in injuries at the moment. If it weren't for the slightly heaving chest, it showed that he was still alive. I'm afraid everyone will think he is dead. Mephisto controlled the flames and magma to wrap everyone up. I still want to thank you. If you hadn't stolen my power, I wouldn't have been able to temporarily break through the Ancient One's power blockade. On the upper level of the underground space, Iron Man is fighting with Mordo Magician. Although Modu Magician was obviously here to help, due to the verbal dispute between the two parties, this favor was obviously not available. And Tony's mouth is not disturbing, and Magician is extremely proud of his girth. When the two met, there was no doubt that no one was convinced of the other, so naturally, the two of them got closer. Logically speaking, it would be easy for the Magician with the magic of Kamar-Taj to deal with Iron Man, but who let Tony have his own plug-in? Ever since he learned that there is magic in this world, and even came into contact with Kamar-Taj and his father's magic, Tony has been studying how to counter magic. Moreover, with the help of the Scientists' Forum, Tony's research has made rapid progress, and all kinds of weird technologies have been used. Although it is currently impossible to truly restrain Kamar-Taj's magic, it can still be done by catching him off guard. Mordo Magician holds the sling ring and wants to teach Iron Man a lesson, letting him understand that the power of magic cannot be matched by technology. Therefore, Mordo thought of using two portals to trap Iron Man. However, in response to this attack, Iron Man flew out directly from between the portals, and Jundu's lesson was obviously not in place. After that, Mordo Magician cast various magics again, but every time, Iron Man would come up with various strange methods and equipment to make his magic ineffective. Especially after Tony discovered that Kamar-Taj's space magic can actually be analyzed based on geometric theory, Tony even played a trick on Mordo Magician and reflected his magic on Mordo Magician himself. Just as the two were fighting, a hot breath suddenly came from the ground, and the cement floor showed signs of melting. What's going on underground? Unlike Tony, who didn't understand at all, Mordo Magician's eyes widened in shock. This is the breath of hell. At this moment, Mordo Magician truly understood the Ancient One's idea of asking him to help. It turned out that this Wang Mojiao matter was really serious. Hell had already broken through the defensive circle from New York to Holy Place. Tony heard Mordo Magician's shocked words. Don't you know? Then what did the Ancient One Magician ask you to do? Modu didn't answer this question. Can he say that he understood it wrong? In the current crisis, do we need the Sorcerer Supreme to sue? Tony looked at Modu with a weird expression like yours. Are you a baby? You can't do anything without the Ancient One Magician. The Ancient One magician is now held back by the Holy Lord, and now we can only rely on ourselves. Modu had an ugly expression on his face. He was just used to Sorcerer Supreme being in front of him. The other party mocked him with such ugly words. If the matter wasn't urgent, he really wanted to take care of him. In the mirror space, the Holy Lord who was fighting the Ancient One suddenly felt the change in magic power. He condensed the fire of hell in his hands and laughed. It seems that my friend's plan is successful. Exclamation mark quote. However, in response to the Holy Lord's excitement, Ancient One smiled slyly. It should be fate that has chosen us. What? When the Holy Lord was astonished by Ancient One's words, Ancient One had already approached the Holy Lord, and then stamped his palm on him. The Ancient One's palm caught the Holy Lord off guard. This palm obviously didn't look very powerful, but the final result made the Holy Lord extremely frightened. I saw two souls flying out of Ethan's body instantly. One of the dragon souls is the Holy Lord, and the other is a burning skull. And Ethan also slowly raised his head at the moment, feeling very unfamiliar with the surroundings. Where is this place? Am I not in the hospital? Who are you? In response to Ethan's question, the Ancient One smiled and stretched out his hand to pull him to his side. Drive Ethan, if you have any questions, you can ask Mr. Stark later. Please wait next to me for a moment. The Holy Lord's dragon soul couldn't believe how easily it was knocked out of Ethan's body. At the same time, the Ghost Rider power he had worked so hard to obtain was also separated. What did you do? Ancient One's expression was indifferent. The soul separation technique, although it is a bit troublesome to learn, I still learned this trick by luck. The Holy Lord roared excitedly. Impossible. I have firmly locked the dragon soul with this body. Before I give my consent, it is impossible for any other force to separate me from this body. In his memory, there had been a failure, and the Holy Lord naturally had already taken corresponding measures. However, Ancient One calmly explained, so I have been waiting for an opportunity. What chance? Wait, Ghost Rider. The Ancient One smiled and said, it seems that you have realized it. The fate of Ghost Rider and Mr. Johnny Blaze are closely connected. Although Ghost Rider has temporarily left Mr. Blaze, once he wants to get Ghost Rider's help again, then Ghost Rider will do whatever it takes to help Mr. Blaze. The Holy Lord's dragon soul widened his eyes as he watched Ghost Rider instantly release blazing flames to burn through the mirror space, then plunge into it and disappear before everyone's eyes. This is impossible. Ghost Rider's consciousness has disappeared long ago. I also use the power of the Tiger Talisman to integrate the two forces of hell and heaven. How could he betray me? Ancient One stretched out his hand to gather magic. You have never been loyal, how can you be betrayed? Holy Lord, thank you for your help to Ghost Rider. Now, I need you to go back to the place you changed back to. Along with losing the power of Ghost Rider, the Holy Lord lost his body again. At the moment, he was no longer the opponent of Ancient One, and was soon sealed by the magic of Ancient One. For Dad and others, it may be very difficult to restore the power of the Holy Lord Dragon Soul, but for a magician like the Ancient One who has existed for thousands of years, there is no barrier from the Ghost Rider's power, just a mere dragon soul. Looking dumbfounded at the Ancient One sealing the dragon soul, Ethan didn't know how to react at the moment. It wasn't until Ancient One opened a portal and invited him to walk in that he followed the footsteps of CGDE and walked towards the back of the portal. In the factory in Hell's Kitchen, Magician found that things had turned bad. He temporarily gave up the conflict with Iron Man, summoned a magic weapon and ran quickly towards the black vortex in the workers' lounge. Tony looked at the back of Mordo Magician, and he wanted to follow him, but the counter-magic ability he mastered was just superficial, and it wouldn't have much effect at all. Let's just say that his ability was only aimed at Kamar-Taj, and Dad's magic are completely powerless against Mephisto from Hell. Therefore, being self-aware, he could only stand there and wait for the final result. Suddenly, a violent vibration came from the ground, making him increasingly anxious. What is happening down there? This feeling of powerlessness made Tony very anxious, and he secretly determined to focus more on studying magic, so that at least the next time he encountered this kind of situation, he would not be unable to participate in the medical field. After waiting for a long time, Tony suddenly noticed a burning flame coming out of the roof and flying directly towards the ground. Etc. Tony wanted to stop it, but unfortunately, in his eyes, the flame merged directly into the ground and then disappeared from his eyes. What it is? Jarvis. Sir, it looks like a Ghost Rider. Looking at the photo Jarvis posted of himself, he saw a flaming skull. But what makes Tony a little unbelievable is that even though it's just a stiff skull and can't make any expression at all, Tony can still feel the happiness of the skull. It looks like Johnny is going to become Ghost Rider again. While Tony was guessing, the Ancient One's voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Yes, the fates of Mr. Blaze and Ghost Rider are intertwined. Tony was startled and turned around to see a familiar bald head and a familiar portal. But when he saw Ethan coming out of the portal, Tony instantly understood that this was Ethan himself because of his dazed expression. Ethan. Opening his visor, Tony happily greeted Ethan. For this savior, it was the happiest thing for him to see him intact. Tony. What the hell happened? That's true. Maybe when it's over, I'll tell you a bedtime story. Tony. Has your thing changed? Ancient One watched the two people chatting excitedly, nodded to Tony, and walked towards the black vortex in the employee lounge. Seeing the Ancient One also arriving, Tony's worries immediately disappeared. In the underground space, Mephisto controlled the flames and magma and continuously attacked everyone present. Jackie Chan was carrying his father on his back, holding Moro in one hand and Danny in the other. Unlucky, 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 Jackie Chan lamented. Is he so angry? Dad, haven't you finished your magic yet? Dad didn't respond and frowned, but the magical energy in him became stronger and stronger. The two sisters Sky and Xiaoyu supported each other, but they could only escape when faced with the rain of fire and magma, but could not have an effective impact on Mephisto. As for Johnny, at the moment he was being held up by his head in the air by Mephisto, and was being tortured by Mephisto's slaps and kicks. But fortunately, Johnny was in a state of transformation at the moment. This kind of physical torture was nothing compared to the pain Johnny was enduring at the moment. Sky looked at the current predicament and felt the increasingly steaming air around her. She felt that she needed to take a risk. Ha! With a soft shout, Sky put his hands forward and used all his strength to activate his ability. The more violent shock wave instantly broke through the barrier of fire, rain and magma and hit Mephisto's shame hard. Mephisto took several steps to the side. At the same time, the strong vibrations made him feel dizzy. After all, it was just a projection duplication, and he could not ignore such a powerful attack. This explosion also caused the entire underground space to begin to shake. The ceiling above the head began to be unable to withstand the vibrations, and many cracks appeared, and some unsupportable stones began to fall to the ground. Sky, this place is going to collapse. Xiaoyu looked at this scene in shock. Sky's eyes were solemn. I know. This is what Sky wants. Although there is a risk of underground space collapse, these falling rocks can also block Mephisto's flames and magma very well, creating a favorable terrain for them. Now that the plan has been successful, it's time for them to fight back. Jackie Chan also arranged for the three fathers and immediately joined the battle ahead. In the crumbling underground space, several people who were fighting fiercely did not notice at all that Modu Magician appeared in disgrace, and a flaming skull also fell from the ceiling and merged into the people kneeling on the ground. Strong electricity in the body. In the underground space, the battle became increasingly fierce, with flames, magma, and vibrations constantly emerging in this closed space. Affected by such a fierce battle, all the surrounding walls, ceilings and floors in the underground space became messy and cracked. Countless gravels continued to fall from the ceiling, leaving the two fighting parties in the underground space with limited range of movement. Fewer and fewer. When the battle became intense, Mordo Magician successfully came down from above in disgrace. Since Jackie Chan and others arrived one after another, and the Ancient One was held back by the Holy Lord, Mephisto immediately modified the teleported black vortex. Graft a part of the hell fragments to the black vortex. Although it is impossible to invade the real dimension with this hell fragment, it can block people passing through in the teleportation space behind the black vortex. It is for this reason that Mordo Magician was delayed by the hell creatures in the hell fragments. Although the hell creatures in this fragment are not very powerful, they are numerous in number, which makes Mordo Magician suffer a lot. After finally breaking through the blockage of the hell fragments and successfully arriving in the underground space, I was shocked to find that the combat environment in the underground space was not friendly either. However, this place is on the Earth after all. If you want to leave, you only need to unlock the ban here after defeating Mephisto. Greater than open a portal and you can leave safely. Although he has never seen Mephisto, as a magician of Kamar-Taj, Mordo naturally felt the strong breath of hell and the huge demonic form of Mephisto at the moment. As for the people who were fighting Mephisto, Mordo didn't feel how powerful they were. However, this is not important. What is important is to solve the problem of Mephisto. He stretched out his hand to condense the magic seal, and as a golden magic circle appeared on his feet, Mordo immediately jumped forward, holding a stick in both hands and hitting Mephisto on the head. Ha! The magic weapon from Kamar-Taj hit Mephisto in the back of the head, causing Mephisto, who was unaware, to immediately lean forward in pain. Mordo's power is not too powerful. What is powerful is the magic weapon in his hand. Mephisto, who was in pain, turned his head with red eyes and looked at Mordo, who had just landed behind him, magician of Kamar-Taj. You should also stay with them and let me harvest your soul. With a wave of his hand, the flames and the magma immediately formed a huge red wave and rushed toward Mordo. Mordo's pupils shrank and he quickly cast a spell. The next moment, a magic shield condensed in his hand and rushed out of the hot flame magma. However, Mordo, who had just rushed out of the crisis, only saw a pair of big hands enlarging in front of his eyes. Bang! Mephisto slapped him with his palm, and Mordo was instantly shot into the wall. HMPH. Stupid magician. Before Mephisto could be happy, a flame blast hit his face. Although he could also control flames, the flames of the dragon talisman had the power of explosion, which was very different from his magma flames. Mortal! Mephisto roared angrily and turned around to kill Jackie Chan and the others. Mordo crawled out of the deep hole in embarrassment. As proud as he was instantly furious after being so insulted. He put away the stick in his hand and formed seals with his hands. In an instant, magic energy gathered in his hands. Let you see how powerful I am, Mephisto. Along with Mordo's anger, various magics continued to appear in his hands, and then hit Mephisto's body. This time, Mordo, who took action with all his strength, brought some threats to Mephisto. Soon, many scars appeared on Mephisto's body. With the addition of Mordo, the pressure on Jackie Chan and the others has been greatly reduced, and it is easier to deal with Mephisto. Mephisto was involved in 4 mortals, and he became even more angry, but the power of projection duplication was only so much. How could he explode? If this continues, there may really be no chance of a comeback. Mephisto was thinking of a solution when he suddenly saw Johnny on the ground still smoking thick black smoke, and a trace of treachery immediately escaped from the corner of his mouth. Using the flames of lava as a screen, Mephisto took a long stride and came to Johnny's side, stretched out his hand to grab his head, and then lifted it up. Hey. Mephisto laughed darkly. Stop now. Otherwise I will smash this guy's head. Hearing this, Jackie Chan and the other 3 immediately stopped attacking, and Xiao Yu even shouted angrily, it's really despicable. Mordo didn't know Johnny, and he didn't take it seriously when he saw Johnny like this, so he was preparing to ignore Mephisto's threat and continue to attack. However, at the moment, something changed suddenly. Johnny suddenly laughed crazily. Ah ha 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 ha. As Johnny laughed, the billowing black smoke became more intense, and even a little spark began to flicker in it. Feeling the warmth coming from his hand, Mephisto's eyes suddenly widened. He hadn't noticed just now that there was something familiar and yet strange inside Johnny's body. Ghost Rider. Johnny's laughter gradually changed. It was no longer Johnny's own voice, but the seductive sound from hell. Boom. In an instant, the thick black smoke was covered by a scorching light. Look at what Mephisto was holding in his hand. Instead of Johnny's head, it was a burning skull. It's just that unlike the red flames of the past, Ghost Rider's current flames are blue. It no longer looks as violent as before, but has a holy flavor. Mephisto felt burning pain in his palm, and he quickly let go of his hand and looked at it, only to see a burning mark appear on his palm. Fe. With the fire that can burn him, all Mephisto can think of is the power that Angel, Ghost Rider originally possessed. After all, Ghost Rider was originally an angel who fell from heaven to hell, so he hates evil so much and kills evil. Ghost Rider landed firmly on the ground. He stretched out his hand and an iron rope appeared in his hand. Eyes burning with flames stared at Mephisto. You You shouldn't have come to the ground. With that said, Ghost Rider threw the iron rope in his hand towards Mephisto. The iron rope instantly wrapped Mephisto up as if it were alive. He roared and threw Mephisto's huge body high into the air. Then he slammed it to the ground. In an instant, Mephisto fell straight to the ground. However, to Ghost Rider's surprise, Mephisto was not teleported back to hell. Instead, he kept falling into the underground magma and is still on the earth. It turns out that the last potion was you. At this time, Dad finally completed the magic and came to Ghost Rider's side. Knocking the magic weapon on Ghost Rider's head, blue flames instantly covered the magic weapon. Ghosts and ghosts, leave quickly. Monsters and ghosts, leave quickly. Monsters and ghosts, leave quickly. As the father continued to recite the spell, Ghost Rider also roared with understanding, and the blue flames spread along the iron rope towards Mephisto underground. The magic weapon in the father's hand then shot a blue magic towards the ground. In an instant, a whirlpool of blue flames suddenly appeared behind Mephisto, and Mephisto could only roar and be sucked into it, and finally disappeared completely into the whirlpool. As the iron rope was recovered, Mephisto had disappeared. The blue flame vortex deep underground also quickly disappeared. The connection with hell in the black vortex in the employee lounge also completely disappeared. Without the support of Mephisto's power, the black vortex also disappeared. Disappearing quickly. Jackie Chan breathed a long sigh of relief. It's finally over. This battle left me with soreness in my back. Ghost Rider also turned back into Johnny instantly. He was also in a trance. He didn't expect that the battle would end like this, especially when he finally turned into Ghost Rider. It was incredible. Modu opened a space door. This place is going to collapse, we must leave. After everyone heard this, they quickly took Moro and Danny, who were unconscious on the ground, and successfully left the place before the underground space collapsed. Back above, the originally good factory had completely collapsed. Seeing everyone appearing, Tony and Ethan quickly walked over. How's it going? Did Mephisto solve it? Although Xiao Yu was also covered in dust, there were no scars on her body. After all, she still had the horse charm for healing. HMPH. With Super Xiao Yu taking action, the Hell Lord is nothing to worry about. Tony stretched out his hand and rubbed Xiao Yu's head. Even the arrogant Tony couldn't dislike this pistachio. I'm afraid it's because of other people's help, but as a kid like you, shouldn't you wait at home for us to come back? How could you get involved in this? Xiao Yu slapped Tony's hand away and crossed her arms. As an indispensable member of the Dragon team, I have a very rich adventure experience. In response, Jackie Chan said, Xiao Yu, you are like this every time, not obedient at all. This time you even brought Sky here. It's too much. I must educate you well. Ah, Uncle Long, I don't want to listen to your nagging. There was laughter on one side, and on the other side, Johnny held Danny in his arms. Because of Mephisto's departure and Danny's re-gifting of demonic power, Danny had become a weakling and his life was in danger. However, there is nothing anyone else can do about this situation. After all, Danny is Mephisto's child and has been eroded by Mephisto's power. Now without the support of Mephisto's power, Danny is like a fish out of water, unable to survive at all. Survive. Modu looked at Danny's appearance and sighed helplessly. Although he was very arrogant, he didn't want to see a child die in front of his eyes. However, Johnny did not give up hope. Ever since his Ghost Rider change, he felt that he could do many things that he had never been able to do before. Raising his hand, the blue flame turned Johnny's hand into a skeleton. And when the blue flames brushed against Danny's skin, Danny's face instantly turned rosy. When the blue flames penetrated deep into Danny's body, Danny immediately regained his vitality and opened his eyes again. What a miracle! Mordo looked at Johnny in disbelief, with an unknown color flashing in his eyes. When everyone was reviewing the battle and celebrating the victory, Ancient One suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Tony looked at the Ancient One in confusion. He had seen the Ancient One go to the Black Vortex with his own eyes before, but not only did the Ancient One not appear with everyone, but he also took such a long time. Moreover, from what Xiaodama and others said, Tony also knew that the Ancient One did not appear in the battle below. Where did he go? However, Mordo did not say anything about the Black Vortex connecting the Hell fragments, so Tony may have some guesses about the whereabouts of the Ancient One. As for why the Ancient One only appeared now, it is naturally related to the Hell fragments. Ever since he learned about the emergence of other worlds, personally experienced rules completely different world, and even been expelled back by that mysterious existence, Ancient One suddenly discovered that there are still so many unknowns in this world. Therefore, the Ancient One suddenly didn't want to die, not only because of protecting the Earth, but more importantly, to protect the Earth for thousands of years. He seemed to have returned to the passionate feeling he had when he first came into contact with magic. He still has to hand over the position of Sorcerer Supreme to the next generation. He has devoted 1,000 years to the Earth. Next, he wants to see the scenery he has never seen before. And if he wants to complete this idea, he has personally experienced the real power of the heavens and the world, and deeply feels his current lack of strength. He is not Tony, who has some kind of ability to communicate with other worlds, nor is he Agent Chin, the mysterious knight who came to this world on his own initiative, nor is he the strangers from other worlds like Dad and the others who came to this world in a daze. Ancient One wants to explore unknown landscapes and needs strong strength by his side. The Hell fragments Mephisto left behind this time are a good enhancement for him. He used to look down on this kind of power, but now he really needs it to strengthen himself. Ancient One looked at the people in front of him. Master Fang, let's go back to District 13 now and seal the Holy Lord again. The father nodded seriously when he heard this. Without further delay, we still need the help of the Ancient One magician for this process. Ancient One smiled and nodded. It is obligatory. Ancient One waved his hand to open the portal leading to Area 13, and then walked in with his father. Next, Jackie Chan, Xiaoyu and Sky followed closely the footsteps of the two people in front. Modu thought for a moment and followed suit without staying where he was. Tony asked Ethan to go in first, then turned to look at Johnny, Morrow and Danny, who looked confused. Let's go. Ancient One magician didn't say it clearly, and they obviously won't refuse you to go to District 13 together. Moreover, Ghost Rider's special ability also needs some help, doesn't it? Oh, by the way, there is also a priest and a Trask who needs supervision. With that said, he gestured to the three of them and walked into the portal. The portal is not closed, the meaning is already very obvious. Johnny shrugged helplessly. It seems that the next life will not be easy. Morrow smiled. It's already pretty good if I can have a place to live. Danny followed the two of them. Where is my mother? Johnny replied. We will take you to your mother after that. When they arrived in District 13, the vastness and sense of technology made the three of them feel as if they were on another planet. Technology and magic complement each other here and have a special feeling. The Ancient One and his father went to the depths of District 13 to deal with the Holy Lord's affairs, while the others acted on their own. Xiaoyu came to Danny. Aha! Trask, do you want to join our super team? Danny was not that wary of his peers, not to mention that the other party had saved him before. You are everyone here. Xiaoyu curled her lips. No, they adults have their own top. It's such a bad name. Our super team is me and Sky. How about you? Do you want to be the third one? Danny asked doubtfully. But I don't have any ability anymore. You and Sky are so strong, so I won't join in dragging you back. Xiaoyu approached Danny and whispered. You are Mephista's child. You are definitely the best candidate to learn dark magic. As long as you learn magic, you will soon become a deceptive war calendar. Hearing this made Danny feel itchy. After all, he was still a child at heart. Under Xiaoyu's witty words, he quickly agreed to Xiaoyu's proposal and joined the super team that Xiaoyu mentioned. Tony said to Sky on the side. Sky, you have to watch these two naughty little guys closely and don't get involved in such a dangerous battle like this time. Sky smiled and replied, Mr. Stark, you sometimes underestimate us. By the way, didn't you say you wanted my help with something? Tony blushed for a moment. It's nothing but a problem with artificial intelligence. Where did you learn the knowledge and know so much about artificial intelligence? Sky, of course I have a knowledgeable teacher. Banner and Ethan hit it off immediately. As people with relatively peaceful temperaments, and both are scientists, although Ethan may not be as smart as Banner, don't forget that Ethan is still an excellent doctor. In addition, Banner has a plan recently, and with Ethan joining, Banner is naturally very happy. Jackie Chan took Moto around the 13th district and introduced him to the significance of the existence of the first main district. Looking at District 13, which was very busy even though there were not many people there, Johnny and Morrow looked at each other. Morrow smiled and said, "It looks like this dormitory is pretty good." Johnny also smiled and said, "At least we don't look so weird." Morrow retorted, "That's you." A week later, with Tony's strong financial help, Johnny and others also settled in San Francisco. Although Danny cannot go to the same school as Xiao Yu, he also attends a primary school near Chinatown. There is no way. Danny has been living with his mother without a fixed place since he was a child. Danny's knowledge cannot keep up with the progress of middle school. Fortunately, as a child of Mephisto, he does not have to worry about his ability, and he will be able to go to middle school soon. However, even so, Xiao Yu laughed at Danny about this matter for a long time. After settling the matter between Holy Lord and Mephisto, the whole world finally calmed down. With the Ancient One magician and Dad present in District 13, there was no accident at all. In the next 2 years, everyone worked hard to improve themselves to prevent possible crises. But it seems that the world has settled down. There have been no accidents for 2 consecutive years, which makes Tony and the others breathe a huge sigh of relief. However, Dad, the others, and District 13 did not return to their own world. Unlike before, this time Dad and the others appeared in this world completely passively, and no one knew how they came to this world. Naturally, there is no way to go back. Fortunately, Xiao Yu and his relatives also entered this world at the same time, and they were also implanted with relevant experiences of this world, as if they were really people on this earth. In this regard, the Ancient One speculated that some existence might have immigrated Dad and the others into this world. As for why, they had no idea at all. In the realm of nothingness, Shen Ziwu looked at Ancient One and their guesses and smiled softly. "Dad, why didn't they return to their own world?" "It's entirely because God never created their world. There is no world to go back to, so how can there be a way to go back?" However, great changes have also taken place in today's realm of nothingness. Through the manipulation and change of the real dimension, anti-destiny allows the realm of nothingness to be greatly improved. And Shen Ziwu also divided the entire realm of nothingness. In addition to the universes he created, including the Merlot Heavenly Court, Shen Ziwu really created a super god universe and accelerated time on it. Self-evolution. This is the most terrifying ability of Dimension Mephista. In his dimension field, whether it is time-space, he can easily control it. The difference between the Super God universe and the God-free universe is that the entire Super God universe was born in the realm of nothingness, so except for a few people who know its existence, the void that is worried about in the universe does not exist at all. In other words, the void is the original realm of nothingness, which is chaos. As a place where it exists, how could Shen Ziwu create some void creatures with single functions and inflexible brains? The entire Super God universe is also Kami Ziwu's plan. He plans to one day bring the Super God universe into contact with the real dimension to change the fate of the universe to a greater extent and gain more counter-destinies, thereby feeding back his transcendence into the Marvel movie universe's plan, the true realization of the gods of the heavens. The absolute timeline needs a break for the time being, so God has no intention of going to another universe that can communicate with the absolute timeline for a moment to earn some counter-destiny. On the way to the dinner, a tragic car accident caused the arrogant Doctor Strange to lose his true love, Christine Palmer. With the death of his beloved, Doctor Strange's heart also died with him. In order to fill the inner trauma, Doctor Strange resigned from his position as a surgeon and traveled around the world. In an accident, he learned that magic exists in this world, so he followed the guidance and came to Kamar-Taj, hoping to find a way to change the tragic consequences of his mistakes from the secrets. He wanted to let your beloved come back to you again. As Strange was chosen by the Ancient One as the successor of the Sorcerer Supreme, he relied on his extraordinary ability and perseverance to quickly master most of the spells in Kamar-Taj. But these were not what he wanted, so he violated the orders of the Ancient One, found the spell to manipulate time and time travel from the Forbidden Book, and quickly mastered it. Discovering the ability that Strange secretly mastered, Ancient One seriously warned him that changing time would destroy the space-time structure of the universe and pose a huge amount of threat to reality. With the Ancient One's restraint, Strange deeply understands the dangers of this spell. However, the good times did not last long. Along with the crisis in the real world, the Ancient One was attacked and died suddenly. Strange was ordered to shoulder the responsibility of Sorcerer Supreme to resist the invasion of the Dark Dimension and the attack of Dormammu. Facing the power of Mephista Dormammu in the dimension, Strange's strength is simply not enough to resist. Therefore, Strange used the Eye of Agamotto to pull himself and Dormammu into a time and space cycle. As long as Dormammu does not give up the idea of invading reality, then every time Strange is killed, he will fall into a time and space cycle, and Dormammu will fall into a time and space loop. And he himself will be sealed in this cyclic time and space forever. After killing Strange countless times, Dormammu finally discovered something was wrong with the time. Finally, under the threat of Strange, Dormammu retreated, and Strange officially became the Sorcerer Supreme, becoming a strong line of defense to protect the Earth. And he also has his own title, Doctor Strange. Although Doctor Strange has gained a lot over this time, he has also grown from the genius surgeon he once was to the Sorcerer Supreme who protects the world. But the night when he lost his beloved was still deeply engraved in his heart, and he still couldn't let go of the past. Christine's voice and smile always appeared in my mind. 2 years after the death of his beloved, Doctor Strange looked at Eye of Agamotto and had a plan in mind. When he was alone, Doctor Strange used the Eye of Agamotto to reverse time and return to the night of the accident 2 years ago in an attempt to change the outcome of that night and save his beloved. After 2 years, Doctor Strange is no longer the arrogant and proud surgeon he was 2 years ago. He abides by traffic rules and is more cautious without making any mistakes. However, fate seemed to be playing a trick on him, and Christine was not spared in the end. Unwilling to be reconciled, Doctor Strange made a second change, but even if he changed a road this time, the car accident was still unavoidable. For the third time, Doctor Strange, who had been cautious all the way, finally brought his beloved to the dinner party, but Christine died of a heart attack on the spot. The fourth time, they gave up the dinner and went to a pizza shop instead. As a result, Christine was shot to death by a gangster. The fifth time, the sixth time, the seventh time. Doctor Strange constantly travels back in time to try to change the outcome of that night, but no matter what efforts he makes and what methods he tries, Christine still cannot escape death in the end. Doctor Strange is about to collapse. Why? Why is Christine destined to die? One last time, Christine, sensing Doctor Strange's frustration, offered to drive the car. But unfortunately, the car accident could not be avoided in the end, and Kristen still could not escape death. Doctor Strange is desperate. He has never hated fate as much as he does now, but there is nothing he can do about it. At this moment, the spirit body of the Ancient One appears, and he tells Doctor Strange that Christine's death is an absolute point in time on the timeline, and it is also the beginning of Doctor Strange's journey to explore magic. This point in time cannot be changed or erased. Without her death, Doctor Strange would not have been able to explore magic, come to Kamar-Taj, or defeat Dormammu to become the Sorcerer Supreme. Doctor Strange doesn't believe what the Ancient One said. He firmly believes that nothing can't be changed. If it can't be done, it can only mean that the power is not strong enough. The two sides cannot reach a consensus. Doctor Strange wants to change the past, but the Ancient One wants to prevent Doctor Strange from making more mistakes. So, the two sides started fighting. The violent collision of magic energy directly caused the instability of time and space, and cracks appeared out of thin air. Finally, with the shattering of glass, Doctor Strange fell into a mysterious time and space. And at the moment, a loud shout came into the ears of Doctor Strange and Ancient One. Paramita, the Ancient One was in a spiritual state and could not stay in this mysterious time and space for too long. He just took one last look and saw an ordinary-looking monk appear on the ground out of thin air. Doctor Strange, on the other hand, watched in shock as the monk appeared in front of him. Both he and Ancient One felt that with the appearance of the monk, a strong energy of time and space suddenly gathered in the air, and then slowly dissipated. Amitabha, the monk called Doctor Strange, the poor monk is Tripitaka of the Tang dynasty in the east. May I ask where this donor is? Doctor Strange looked blankly at Tang Sanzang in front of him. Although he was an American and although Tang Sanzang spoke Chinese, as the Sorcerer Supreme of Kamar-Taj, he still knew the Eastern Tang Sanzang and could understand Chinese. But what he couldn't figure out was, had he traveled through time to more than 1,000 years ago? Tang San hid Doctor Strange with a dazed look on his face. Seeing that he was a Westerner, he thought he didn't understand his language. Hello. Stupid ball. Savadika. Dr. Strange came to his senses and said quickly, Sanzang magician, I know Chinese, you just need to speak Chinese. I thought you, a barbarian, don't understand Chinese, you're so stupid. After complaining softly, Tang Sanzang smiled and nodded. May I ask the donor, where is this place? Dr. Strange had a strange expression. The Tang Sanzang in front of him seemed to be very different from the Tang Sanzang in his impression. The other person did not look like an accomplished monk. Sanzo magician, I don't know where this place is. Tang Sanzang's expression paused. So that's it, it's fun. After the two got to know each other, a monk wearing a bamboo hat appeared behind them. Dr. Strange and Tang Sanzang immediately approached him and asked. The monk turned around and left without saying a word, and Dr. Strange and Tang Sanzang quickly followed. After walking through the narrow passage, the two saw a magnificent building built in the middle of the cliff. There were no roads leading to the cliff. Tang Sanzang raised his hand and put it on his eyebrows. I don't know who built the holy place here, but it is so miraculous. For this kind of place without an entrance, it may be difficult for others, but it will definitely not be difficult for Dr. Strange. Dr. Strange waved his hand to open the portal, and walked in with Tang Sanzang. Tang Sanzang looked behind him. He was already in the building on the cliff at the moment. He was immediately amazed. Almsgiver, your ability to shrink the ground into an inch is really enviable. I wonder if this poor monk can do it. Learn. Dr. Strange looked at Tang Sanzang strangely. Along the way, he was very verbose and annoying, and he didn't act like an enlightened monk. If Sanzang magician wants to learn, you can go to Kamar-Taj. Tang Sanzang asked in confusion. Where is Kamar-Taj? Where is it in the Tang dynasty? How far is it from the Tang dynasty? But the immortal family cave sky. Donor, what do you think this place is? The poor monk thinks it is the tomb of a distinguished person. Do you think there will be any rare treasures here, or is there any magic secret book here? If you find it here, what does the donor plan to do with the treasure? If he finds the magic secret book, will the donor look down upon it? Speaking of which, the poor monk has 3 apprentices. If there are magic secret books here, can you give some to the poor monk so that he can also give them to the 3 disciples? A disciple brings some gifts. If the donor refuses, the poor monk has nothing to do, but there should still be more truth, goodness and beauty in this world, right? The series of questions made Dr. Strange feel as if there was a fly spinning around him, and the buzzing sound continued to enter his ears, making his tempered temper begin to become a little irritable. Magician. Dr. Strange shouted loudly and stopped Tang Sanzang's words. Then he felt something was wrong, so he suppressed it and said calmly, why don't we each take a look at what this place is? Having said that, without waiting for Tang Sanzang's reply, he took the lead and walked towards the front as if he was running away. Donor. Tang Sanzang wanted to call Dr. Strange to stop, but upon hearing his voice, Dr. Strange's original movement of walking quickly turned into running. Regarding this result, Tang Sanzang shook his head helplessly. Amitabha, after all, most of the people in the world are ordinary people, and they cannot be calm at all. They will ignore everything when they hear the news of the treasure. He suddenly thought of something and hurriedly waved to follow. Donor. Be careful, there are many traps and dead ends in all tombs. Don't act recklessly, let alone let greed invade your heart. Donor, wait a minute, poor monk, ah. When Tang Sanzang caught up with Dr. Strange and walked into the depths of the building, he happened to see Dr. Strange surrounded by countless mysterious symbols. At the same time, the floor under Dr. Strange's feet was also changing. Donor, be careful, Tang Sanzang shouted and ran over to pull Dr. Strange back, but he didn't expect that he would also follow him into the land surrounded by ruins. As the floor instantly emptied, an invincible abyss appeared at the feet of the two of them. Whoa 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 whoa. As Tang Sanzang shouted, he and Dr. Strange instantly fell towards the abyss. Bang, bang, 2 dull landing sounds were heard in succession, and Tang Sanzang and Dr. Strange were surprised to find that they fell from such a high place and were still unharmed. Tang Sanzang touched his chest and found no damage at all. What a strange place. I didn't expect that the poor monk would be lucky enough to come to such a magical place before he arrived in the West to pay homage to the Tathagata. Dr. Strange didn't answer, because he had figured out Tang Sanzang's character before. He was an extremely talkative monk. If he had talked to him, Tang Sanzang might have gone even further and whispered something in his ear. Stop. In the darkness, a bright light came towards them. It turned out to be a monk who had a relationship with them before. After the monk's introduction, they learned that the monk's name was Abenge and he was the librarian here. The place where they are currently is Cagliostro's Lost Book City, a legendary library that holds all books. Doctor Strange asked. I came here to meet Cagliostro Magician. According to legend, he has mastered the secret of breaking through the absolute point in time. Where should I find him? Abenge replied. The Cagliostro Magician is very mysterious, maybe here, maybe somewhere else, maybe nowhere. Doctor Strange frowned and said doubtfully, wait, you are not Camistro, are you? Oben laughed. I introduced myself. My name is Obenge, and I am just the administrator of Cagliostro Bookstore. However, the answer you want to know can be found in the book by yourself. After that, he turned around and left, followed closely by Doctor Strange and Tang Sanzang. Tang Sanzang asked Doctor Strange in confusion, which immortal is Cagliostro? What does absolute point in time mean? Why do you want to break it? Are there really books here? Then are there any books here? Mahayana Buddhist scriptures. The poor monk has too many questions in his mind. Why does the donor keep ignoring the poor monk? Doctor Strange gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. If this place wasn't special, he would definitely have made Tang Sanzang's mouth shut. As a door was pushed open, the three of them entered a magnificent room. Runes are painted all around, magic circles are engraved on the ground, and countless books of different types hang overhead. At the same time, bookshelves-like pillars are also filled with all kinds of books, and a peach tree is in full bloom. The tree swayed in the center. Although the surroundings are completely closed and there are no lights, there is natural light shining in from the top of the head, making the huge amounts of room not appear dark at all, but has a warm feeling. As if he knew something, Abenge asked Doctor Strange, how long are you going to stay here? Doctor Strange stared at the countless books in front of him, his mind already diverted, until the answer is found. Abenge nodded, then turned around and left. Tang Sanzang came directly in front of Abenge and clasped his hands. Amitabha, magician, you and I are both believers. Why does the magician turn a blind eye to the poor monk as soon as we enter this place? Abenge looked at Tang Sanzang, his eyes full of confusion. This magician. Tang Sanzang frowned slightly, then relaxed. It turns out that magician doesn't understand Chinese, so the poor monk can just speak English with magician. Afterwards, Tang Sanzang asked Abenge his question again in English. Abenge finally understood and responded quickly. Magician, I didn't know that magician was not the same person as Doctor Strange. It was my fault for ignoring magician. Tang Sanzang asked strangely, you seem to be waiting for the strange benefactor. Abenge smiled slightly. Magician, everything in the world always has its own natural laws. What I do is just to follow fate. Tang Sanzang turned to look at Doctor Strange who had been buried in the sea of books. Donor Strange has huge amounts of trauma in his heart. What you did seems to be indulging Doctor Strange and letting him wallow in grief. Abenge's eyes flashed. Magician, fate is irresistible. Just like some people are good, some are bad. If you want to stop it, you will inevitably suffer the backlash of fate. Afterwards, Abenge stared at Tang Sanzang and said meaningfully, Magician, you are someone outside of destiny. I hope you will not disturb Doctor Strange's destiny. After saying that, Abenge turned and left. Tang Sanzang turned his head and took a deep look at Doctor Strange. He clasped his hands together and said, Amitabha. Afterwards, Tang Sanzang watched Doctor Strange bury himself deeply in the mountains of books and the sea of literature, until a ray of moonlight fell from above his head. All conditioned dharma is like a dream. Tang Sanzang suddenly said this to Doctor Strange's back, and then stopped paying attention to Doctor Strange's sudden pause. He took out a long box from his arms. Under the illumination of the moonlight, space-time energy continued to gather on the long box. Tang Sanzang shouted, Prajna Paramita. The space-time energy quickly gathered, and with a strong flash of light, Tang Sanzang's figure disappeared from the spot. Doctor Strange turned his head in shock. The thick space-time energy was slowly dissipating. When Tang Sanzang appeared again, he found that he had not returned to the environment he was familiar with, but had arrived at a lively night. Boom 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 boom. Along with a series of fierce explosions, Tang Sanzang looked at the battle between the two Doctor Strange in the sky in amazement. This is how the same thing. A beam of hot magical energy fell from the sky and exploded not far from Tang Sanzang. Huge amounts of shockwave blew Tang Sanzang away. If it hadn't been for the sudden appearance of a flash of light around Tang Sanzang's body, which protected him, Tang Sanzang would have died on the spot. In the sky, two Doctor Strange who were fighting also discovered Tang Sanzang Yang, who suddenly appeared on the ground. Li Nuo Zhao. Among them, the ruddy-skinned Doctor Strange said in shock, "What's going on? Why is there a person here?" The other Doctor Strange, who looked more evil, looked at Tang Sanzang in shock. Tang Sanzang. Why is he here? Feeling the space-time energy imprinted in his memory, Doctor Strange discovered more this time. He came here right after he left. Thinking of this, the evil Doctor Strange immediately flew towards Tang Sanzang. "Sanzang magician, let me use your magic." Tang Sanzang just got up from the ground, but he saw the evil Doctor Strange flying towards him, and he also cast a spell to condense a rope and hook it towards the long box in his arms. Tang Sanzang watched in surprise as the long box in his arms was taken away by the evil Doctor Strange. He did not expect that the other party's target would be this thing. "Wait, what are you grabbing?" After Doctor Strange discovered the evil and strange movements, he immediately formed a magic rope and grabbed the long box in the air. In an instant, the two fell into a stalemate. Doctor Strange asked with all his strength, "What is this box? Why do you want to steal other people's things?" Evil Strange smiled with a sick smile. "Don't you feel the space-time energy on the box? I have encountered this box before. At that time, I didn't know the power of the box, but now, I can already feel the power of the box, energy. With it, I can achieve what I want even if I don't need you." Doctor Strange frowned and glanced at the long box. He didn't expect that the other party would regard this box as so important, but he still advised, "You are wrong. Because of your actions, reality has begun to collapse. If you insist on going your own way, the entire universe will be destroyed by you." Evil Strange has long been trapped in a demon barrier, and he will not believe what Doctor Strange said. "You are lying to me. I just changed a point in time, and the impact on the universe is not worth mentioning at all." Tang Sanzang got involved at this time. "Are you a strange benefactor? Why have you, the benefactor, changed so much? And why are there two of you?" Evil Strange glared at Tang Sanzang. "Sanzang magician, hide well, if you die here, no one will collect your body." Tang Sanzang was startled, and Doctor Strange on the side asked, "Have you met him?" Tang Sanzang only felt weird about the two Doctor Strange. The poor monk and the strange benefactor had been together in Cagliostro, but for some reason, the strange benefactor changed so much. Who is this benefactor who looks the same as the strange benefactor? Why are you fighting here? Can't you talk calmly to resolve the conflict? Doctor Strange stared deeply at Evil Strange. "He and I were originally the same person, but because of a difference in thought, we split into another timeline. Now two timelines have appeared in one universe, and this time the entire universe has been destroyed. And if we want to solve this problem, we must get everything back on track." Tang Sanzang immediately understood. It seems that the strange donor is too obsessed with it and is unwilling to do what the donor wants. "I dare to ask the donor, are you two fighting here? Is it for the sole purpose of performing a strange trick?" Doctor Strange shook his head. "Our purpose is the same, to integrate into one person, the only difference is who needs to take the lead." Amitabha. Tang Sanzang finally understood. The donor's one thought was Buddha and the other thought was devil, which triggered this crisis. All roots come from attachment and dissatisfaction. Tang Sanzang's words made Evil Chi extremely angry. "Monk, don't comment on things that you shouldn't be involved in. Otherwise, I will make it impossible for you to speak again." Tang Sanzang was not threatened at all. "Donor, now that you are divided into two, you are not complete, and your actions are often extreme. This is normal, and this poor monk understands." "Monk, you talk too much." The evil, strange and angry person released a spell on Tang Sanzang, trying to silence him. However, Doctor Strange discovered it in time and cast a spell to intercept the attack. "Sanzo magician, you hide first, it's too dangerous here." Because he took action to protect Tang Sanzang, Doctor Strange's actions showed flaws, and the box he was fighting for was almost taken away by the evil Strange. When Tang Sanzang saw this, he immediately understood that he was really in the way, and hurriedly hid aside. Donor, what you are fighting for is the Moonlight Treasure Box, which can travel through time and space. If it is really effective for your obsession, I can give it to you. Try it. Facing the moonlight, open the treasure box and recite the mantra, Paramita, to travel through time and space. After hearing this, Doctor Strange instantly understood why Evil Strange wanted to snatch the Moonlight Box, and his heart became even more solemn. Although the Moonlight Box can travel through time and space, you don't think that just a box can do things that even our time gem can't do. Stop it, you can make mistakes again and again. Evil Strange was unmoved at all. You don't think this is just an ordinary magic weapon, do you? Within your scope of knowledge, is there such a magic weapon that can reverse time and space? It is not a magic weapon from this world. It doesn't need to adhere to what our world calls absolute points in time. Doctor Strange's pupils tightened. He had never thought that such a thing would happen. He turned his gaze to Tang Sanzang, who was hiding aside, wanting to seek his answer. However, Tang Sanzang, who had a mortal body, didn't know this, so he just gave Doctor Strange a confused look. Evil Chi took advantage of it the moment to seduce. Come on, work with me to change the results, you should be able to see hope. Doctor Strange naturally understands the meaning of evil and strange, but he has also seen the collapse of the world with his own eyes, so he doesn't know whether he should take the risk or not. What are you still hesitating about? This is the best chance to save Christine. Tang Sanzang saw Doctor Strange's hesitation. Although he didn't understand why the originally determined Doctor Strange was now hesitating, he still started to persuade him. Donor, if it is hesitation, then make a decision that you will not regret. Doctor Strange said tangledly. Sanzo magician, but this decision is very important. If you fail, there will be very serious consequences. Even if you are Sanzo magician, you will be left in this world forever. Tang Sanzang clasped his hands together. Buddha said, if I don't go to hell, who will go to hell? The poor monk goes to the west to pray for the true scriptures, and it is also to save all sentient beings. If it is for the safety of the poor monk, regardless of the benefactor's wishes, he will solve the benefactor's worries and doubts, then how can the poor monk talk about meeting the Tathagata, seeking the true scriptures, and bringing salvation to all sentient beings? Although he admired Tang Sanzang's character, Doctor Strange still hesitation, but if something goes wrong, the whole world will be destroyed. Tang Sanzang smiled and said, although the donor, the poor monk has no magic power, he can still see a thing or two about the current situation. Even if he does not solve the donor's doubts, can the donor really follow the donor's ideas with his ability? Instead of continuing to hesitate and finally follow the established destiny, how about taking a chance on the future? Doctor Strange looked at Tang Sanzang in surprise, feeling that something had changed about him at the moment, and that he was a little different from before. But at the moment, he didn't think much about it. After all, Tang Sanzang was right. Since things had reached this level, it was better to leave everything behind and give it a try. You and I will go together. Doctor Strange stared at Evil Strange closely and spoke out the terms. Evil Strange smiled. Then you and I will change the past together. Then, both of them grabbed the Moonlight Treasure Box, opened it, and faced the moon in the sky. Paramita. With a flash of dazzling light, the two people disappeared in an instant. Tang Sanzang looked at all this, clasped his hands together, and was as quiet as ever. The spirit body of the Ancient One suddenly appeared next to Tang Sanzang. Magician Sanzang from another world, you are changing destiny. Tang Sanzang smiled slightly, and the Buddha's light suddenly appeared on his body, and his whole aura changed drastically. Magician, to save all sentient beings is to trace back the origins of a poor monk all his life. The world is full of suffering. If you can change the miserable fate, even if you are broken into pieces, what's the harm? Ancient One felt the changes in Tang Sanzang, his eyes flickered uncertainly, and then gave up the unrealistic idea. Master is compassionate, Ancient One has learned the lesson. Chapter 101. After noticing certain changes in Tang Sanzang, Ancient One felt the energy continuously emerging from Tang Sanzang's body. It was not any kind of energy that he knew. Its power was as bright as the sun, and it was condensed with the will of all living beings, and nurtured by endless compassion. This energy is Buddha. Although he has never seen it, after feeling this energy, this word popped up in Ancient One's heart. When the Buddha descends into the mortal world, even if the Ancient One has the supernatural power to resist it, he cannot escape its influence, and a desire to seek the Buddha arises in his heart. Master, is it Tang Sanzang or Buddha at the moment? Ancient One's eyes were deep. He had lived for more than 1,000 years and had never seen a real Buddha. Tang Sanzang smiled slightly, sat on the ground, clasped his hands, and the Buddha's light shone behind him. That's why the nectar has the same taste, and its color changes according to the container. The mani has one form, and the shadows are divided according to the color. The mind that can speak, turns to be equal, moistened by it. There are thousands of different meanings. The first, third, and fifth vehicles all originate from the same sect. Dharma, retribution, and response are all the same in nature and use in different ways. The Ancient One frowned. The legend of Fu Dharma. The master is both Tripitaka and Tathagata. Amitabha. Tang Sanzang called out the Buddha's name. If you have compassion in your heart, Buddha is everywhere. Hearing this, Ancient One seemed to have grasped something in his heart. An unbelievable but reasonable feeling rose up in his heart. However, the answer that made him feel this way was like a mirror, and he could not touch it at all, which makes people extremely irritated. While the two were talking, countless darkness began to appear around them. Those darkness swallowed up everything they came into contact with, whether it was life, matter, or the original world, they were all within the swallowing range of darkness. The Ancient One looked around and sighed slightly. Master, fate is irresistible, and compassion can also hurt others and yourself. Tang Sanzang's smile did not diminish. Everyone in the world is dissatisfied, everyone is impatient, and everyone is persistent. All three are poisonous, which is greed, anger, and ignorance. Satisfy greed, obey anger, and indulge in obsession. Only by picking it up can we let it go, only poisoning can detoxify it. The Ancient One looked solemn. The Master is using the world as a prescription to cure Dr. Strange. Tang Sanzang smiled and said, this is to comply with the way of heaven, to overcome the tribulation and be reborn. Taking a deep breath, Ancient One finally understood why Tang Sanzang handed over the moonlight box to Dr. Strange. Tang Sanzang, no, now it's Buddha. Buddha understood that destiny was destined for the demise of this world, so Buddha did not stop it. He just gave Dr. Strange a chance to choose again after the death of the world. After the world dies, the path planned by fate has come to an end. Next, it is Dr. Strange's own choice. Whether he chooses to follow the path of fate again, or breaks fate and takes the path he wants, it all depends on him. His own will. This is the case with Buddha. He never forces you to make a choice. He just gives you the opportunity to choose. Tang Sanzang went to the West to obtain scriptures in order to provide sentient beings with the opportunity to choose and to save all sentient beings. It has never been a simple matter. Buddha is the heart. Obey your original heart, suppress evil and promote good, and everyone is true, good and beautiful. This is what Tang Sanzang said. Tripitaka seeks the most authentic purpose of obtaining the true scriptures. It can be said that when Tang Sanzang decided to go to the West to worship Buddha and seek scriptures, he was already a Buddha. Amitabha, I have heard this, and it is said that I have always heard it. Those who preach Buddhism say such things, and I have heard them in the past. Why? With the sound of Buddha uncovering, the Buddha's light behind Tang Sanzang illuminated the world, and the countless darkness instantly dissipated like melting snow. The Buddha's light enveloped Ancient One, and a warmth from the bottom of his heart emerged in his heart. In a trance, he seemed to see a golden Buddha with no end in sight. He stands in the endless world, and the bubble-like worlds are like particles of dust. Where the Buddha's light shines, everyone can live and work in peace and contentment, and enjoy eternal peace. Seeing the Buddha, the Ancient One saw the truth far beyond eternity. Unconsciously, Ancient One clasped his hands together, and the monk's clothes on his body flashed with gilded light, turning into a shaman robe. Amitabha. At the moment, the Ancient One has a solemn treasure appearance, and a transparent golden wheel slowly emerges behind his head. Tang Sanzang looked at Ancient One's transformation with a smile. Amitabha. Where the Buddha's light is shrouded, the world is not entirely shrouded in darkness. The Buddha's light of Tang Sanzang and the golden roulette of the Ancient One guard the last place in the world, waiting for the turning point of fate. No matter how long it took, the darkness suddenly retreated, and a complete world recovered again. The night sky is clear, the moon is bright, and the breeze is refreshing and refreshing. The world has been destroyed and reborn. People in this world are no longer controlled by fate. They can make their own choices freely. The Ancient One felt the tranquility around him, and he saw that the world had fundamentally changed. I have never seen such a quiet world. Tang Sanzang smiled and said, night is inherently quiet. What is not quiet is always the human heart. The Ancient One laughed and shook his head. With his great enlightenment, he had already changed his mind and was no longer persistent, greedy or angry. Looking at each other in silence, the two of them quietly waited for the arrival of the person who would change their destiny. A bright light flashed, and Doctor Strange appeared in front of the two of them. It takes 2 minutes to leave, and only 2 minutes to return. Doctor Strange's strength at the moment has reached unprecedented heights. He is out of the control of fate and has unlimited possibilities. He handed the Moonlight Treasure Box to Tang Sanzang. Sanzang, magician, thank you for your help. Ancient One stood up, the golden roulette behind his head shining brightly. Strange. Before the Ancient One finished speaking, Doctor Strange had already raised his hand and put the Eye of Agamotto in front of everyone. As the Eye of Agamotto is opened, the green time gem inside is exposed to the air. Click. After a crisp sound, the time gem instantly shattered into slag, and then turned into little green dust and disappeared into the night. The Ancient One sighed. The time gem has expired, and there will no longer be a time branch in this world. Tang Sanzang smiled and said, one flower and one world, one leaf and one Bodhi. The world exists everywhere, and the world exists everywhere. The Ancient One Master has a portrait. After receiving the Moonlight Treasure Box, Tang Sanzang opened it and pointed it at the moonlight shining down from the sky. The poor monk is very happy about this trip, but there is cause and effect, and when we meet, we are separated. The poor monk still has unfulfilled responsibilities. I still need to save those disciples of mine, so let's say goodbye to each other. Ancient One, Amitabha. Doctor Strange looked at the changed Ancient One strangely, and waved his hand to Tang Sanzang. Sanzang, magician, go away in peace. Tang Sanzang smiled and nodded. Paramita. A bright light flashed, and Tang Sanzang disappeared on the spot, as if he had never been there. In the realm of nothingness, God has an extremely ugly face. This is completely different from the plan he arranged. Buddha has been here. In the realm of nothingness, Shen Ziwu looked at Tang Sanzang, who had returned to his own realm and fell asleep, with a very ugly look on his face. Although he said that he did not personally interfere with the actions of these people who were created and transmitted, the character settings and memories given to them can guide them to follow their own arrangements. Even if there are some differences in some details, the big aspects will not change. But Tang Sanzang, a man who had not arranged any power for him and was just a tool to give him the gift of the Moonlight Box, could actually be so deeply involved in that world. It's not just the sudden appearance of the so-called Buddha, but also the enlightenment of the Ancient One and the reboot of the world by Doctor Strange. These are completely different from God's own arrangements. Buddha. Shen Ziwu understands very well that there are no Buddhas in the Marvel multi-universe, only some extraordinary beings named after gods and Buddhas. Tang Sanzang's final performance was obviously beyond the scope of ordinary people, and he also broke away from the initial character setting and became a real Buddha. After Tang Sanzang returned to his place, Shen Ziwu checked it inside and out, but found nothing strange at all. Therefore, Shen Ziwu suddenly thought that the world of the heavens really exists, and the existence named Buddha is like the Deluo Jinxian in the novel, projecting his own concept into the endless time and space of the heavens, and he can exist in any world, any time and space, any corner, as long as there is the existence of Buddha. There is no Buddha in the Marvel multi-universe. They created a Tang Sanzang. Although this Tang Sanzang is not the enlightened monk that everyone knows, Tang Sanzang originally attached the concept of Buddha, thus ushering in 77, caught the gaze of Buddha. Moreover, Buddha also guided Ancient One to become the first concept bearer of Buddha in this world. In this way, even if Shen Ziwu takes back Tang Sanzang, Buddha will also stand firm in the Marvel multi-universe heel. This speculation has caused God to feel infinite fear. Over the past few days, he has used the dimension Beelzebub's power to deceive everyone in the Marvel multi-universe, thinking that the world has penetrated this multi-universe minister. and the existence of the God of the heavens gradually began to have seeds. Even Shen Ziwu has felt the seeds of the gods of the heavens taking root in his body. As long as the nutrients are sufficient, they will take root and sprout, and eventually grow into a towering tree. However, the existence of Buddha cast a shadow over Shen Ziwu's heart. When he wanted to transcend the multi-universe and create the world of the heavens was also watching him from a distance. Those Buddha-like existences are also waiting for the opportunity that God will give them to come. In other words, God himself does not use the sentient beings of the Marvel multi-universe as a chess piece, but the real world of the heavens also uses him as a chess piece. Thinking of this, Shen Ziwu, who had always been smooth sailing, was naturally filled with negative emotions. But after calming down, Shen Ziwu's reason once again occupied the high ground of IQ. Suppressing the negative emotions, Shen Ziwu also understood that the fact that he traveled to the Marvel multi-universe and became a Mephista in the dimension of the concept of nothingness was probably a move made by an existence like Buddha. Although the opponent uses him as a chess piece, he is not without gains. Not only does he reach the immortal dimension of Mephista in one step, he also has the opportunity to become a Buddha. Even if the goal is elusive, as long as there is a chance, it is not a problem. After thinking through these issues, Kami Ziwu also made a strong note of this reborn world. This world already has the foundation to break away from the Marvel multi-universe. To a certain extent, Shen Ziwu is an ally with this world, so as long as he does not conflict with the other party, he does not want to deal with this world. After all, the choices of both parties are completely different, and Shen Ziwu is not willing to put his hope on others. However, this time, although something unexpected happened, making Shen Ziwu feel the fear, he still reborn a dead world and threw all the creatures in this world out of the control of fate. How powerful the anti-fate born at this moment will be. Because of these gifts of anti-fate, the realm of nothingness in Shenkwu has greatly increased, and Shenkwu's Mephista power has also been greatly improved. This is still the result of Shen Ziwu's independent use, just a change caused by a wave of impact. For today's Kana, he can easily create the Ninja World continent and the Great Navigation Planet, and even create two universes that only contain a few galaxies. However, this was not of much temporary help to Shen Ziwu, so he was not in a hurry to perfect the two worlds, but instead cast his sights on another universe. Unlike the absolute timeline or the sacred timeline, this universe has almost only a single timeline. Compared to the world where Avengers exists, this timeline is extremely pure and monotonous. This is the world where mutants exist. There is no Iron Man, no Captain America, and no existence like Dormammu or Thanos. The reason why Shen Ziwu sets his sights here is that the counter-destinies that can be obtained in a single timeline will be more and more powerful. Moreover, this world is simple enough. Once an existence outside the world appears, the impact on the entire world will be extremely huge. Under the butterfly effect, it will have huge amounts of impact on the original destiny. Looking at the sleeping Tang Sanzang again, he saw that Shen Ziwu was about to be destroyed with a flick of his finger. Then he turned his attention to the X-Men world. There are only two races in the whole world. Isn't it a little too monotonous? Along with the thought of Kami Ziwu, a man with green eyes and long canine teeth appeared quietly in the office of the President of the White House. The moonlight was thick outside the window, and the white-haired president looked at the mysterious Asian man who suddenly appeared in horror, and then looked at the man with a fierce look on his face. He immediately pressed the button on the table, which was an alarm. However, the mysterious man suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of him. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the president's wrist tightly like a soldering iron. "Your Excellency, I have a small deal. I wonder if you would like to hear about it." 10 minutes later, the mysterious man disappeared from the presidential office, leaving only the president curled up on the ground, shaking and screaming. Hearing the abnormal movement in the office, the secretary and bodyguard at the door immediately opened the door and walked in. "Your Excellency, what's wrong with you?" Seeing the president's painful look, the secretary immediately leaned over to check on the president's condition, and at the same time shouted to the bodyguard behind him, "Call the doctor, hurry." One bodyguard left immediately, leaving only the other bodyguard and secretary. When the White House fell into brief chaos, the president suddenly stopped shaking and his curled body relaxed. Your Excellency, President, you. The secretary immediately leaned over to ask, but she only saw a pair of eyes with yellow pupils, and a slightly opened mouth, revealing vampire-like canine teeth. In the horrified eyes of the secretary and bodyguard, the president roared and threw them down with a ferocious look on his face. At the same time, his sharp canine teeth pierced the blood vessels in their necks. Soon, the entire White House became a chaotic dance of demons, with pairs of yellow, blue, or white, or even black pupils shining in the dark night, and countless sharp canine teeth roaring up to the sky, which made people feel frightened. In the president's office, an Asian man with green pupils sat in the president's seat, and in front of the president's desk were all the powerful people in the White House headed by the president. Master, now that the entire White House has turned into zombies, what should we do next? The president bent down and asked respectfully. The Asian man chuckled. What else is there to ask? There are so many people who want to live forever, you can just use it. We want to create a zombie country. As long as all those in power become zombies, there's no difficulty, right? The president complimented. The master has a clever plan, and the villain will do what the master wants. At this time, the scientific advisor on the side suddenly said, Master, when we transformed the people in the White House into zombies, several people were not transformed. After receiving zombie blood, they all showed signs of genetic collapse. The Asian man raised his eyebrows in surprise. Oh, who are those people? They can actually resist the blood transformation of zombies. The scientific advisor replied. Through testing, they are all recessive mutants containing the X gene. It was impossible for them to activate the X gene and become mutants in this life, but under the stimulation of zombie blood, they activated the X. The genes have become mutants, but their lifespans have also undergone genetic collapse due to zombie blood. Although their lives cannot be taken temporarily, their lifespans have been greatly reduced. The Asian man was greatly surprised. In his knowledge, he had never encountered an existence that could withstand zombie blood. What about these survivors? Science advisor. Without the owner's orders, we just imprisoned them. The Asian man smiled and waved his hands and said, let's study it and see if we can change this phenomenon. If it doesn't work, just kill them. A race that cannot become zombies. It has no effect on us. Quote, hearing these cold-blooded words, no one present felt any discomfort. After all, the people who can sit here are not charitable people. Yes, after the Asian man waved everyone away, he walked to the window alone and looked at the beautiful scenery outside the window. In this world, no one can stop my ideals. Taking advantage of the darkness, some black-eyed zombies in the White House moved the mutants to the nearest research base. At the same time, some high-level zombies who went with them also completely turned the research base into a zombie base tonight. Among them, there were also some mutants who had not been found to have the X gene, and were treated as ordinary people and put on the experimental table on the spot. The people who can conduct research in this kind of research base are not originally of a high-minded character. Coupled with the endless lifespan and powerful power brought by becoming a zombie, they are extremely curious about the existence of zombies. And this curiosity even surpasses the mutant they were once most passionate about. After all, in the final analysis, mutants are just humans with extraordinary powers, while zombies are completely different beings. This kind of vampire-like race, even except for the lowest black-eyed zombies, other zombies are completely inferior to vampires. Even the lowest level of black-eyed zombies are only afraid of sunlight, not other things like crosses and garlic. Not to mention the existence of black-eyed zombies and above. Even the sunlight does not damage them at all. Without revealing the true form of the zombies, they are no different from ordinary people, except that they cannot eat human food and need to suck blood. And the moment they become zombies, their lives have been frozen and they will remain in this posture forever. Even zombies can originally awaken some of their own unique powers, and these powers are not like mutant, may turn into an extremely ugly monster. This and mutant, a race that is somewhat similar, but far superior to mutant, makes the entire upper class of the United States actively want to be transformed. And the most noble transformation is the first embrace from an Asian man. The hierarchy of zombies is strict, and the superiors will definitely overwhelm the subordinates, but they only need direct bloodline. The most superior person must be an Asian man. As long as he has his first support, he can quickly develop an army of his own, and he is the kind who is not easy to rebel. That kind. Therefore, there are many ambitious people who resist the temptation of eternal life and wait for Asian men to embrace them for the first time. The first president was just a puppet pushed by many capitalists, but with the power of zombies, he has truly become the real power in his hands. As the president, even many capitalists cannot affect his power, because they all long for eternal life. A month has passed since the night when the zombies arrived, and the team of zombies has grown extremely strong. Although after understanding the power of mutant, under the order of the Asian man, he deliberately concealed it. After all, zombie blood is not infinite, and black-eyed zombies are not very useful. Therefore, in 1 month, although the zombie team has grown, it is only tens of thousands. Compared with the population of the entire United States, it is really a drop in the bucket. However, these tens of thousands of people control the entire superstructure of the United States, and they are definitely the most influential in terms of influence. In Mutant Academy, they have also noticed the changes in the country. Professor X is summoning the X-Men for an emergency meeting on this matter. Professor, the genes of zombies are completely inconsistent with the genes of our mutants. The genes of zombies will collapse the genes of mutants. Beast Hank McCoy is the smartest being among the mutants and one of the smartest people on Earth. Countless advanced technologies and equipment in X-Men were basically invented by Beast. At the moment, he was holding a research report and reporting to Professor, and they are still the group of people who have the largest power and funds in the world. Professor. After all, he has a brainwave amplifier and can directly scan the entire Earth to tell which camp each person belongs to. The current situation is extremely unfavorable to our mutant, and the zombie gene can activate the mutant's X gene. If Eric knows about this, things will get out of hand. Iceman asked curiously, "What exactly is a zombie? It sounds a bit similar to a zombie." The people present were not only curious about Iceman, but basically most of the X-Men were confused about zombies. As Americans, don't expect them to know much about the legendary creatures of other civilizations. After all, arrogance is engraved in their bones. Jubilation Lee, the only Chinese person present, raised her eyebrows. She knew something about zombies. Although she was born and raised in the United States, her parents are Chinese immigrants, so she has watched many Hong Kong movies since she was a child. Zombies were also one of her childhood nightmares. Horrible creatures similar to vampires, she did not expect that they would actually appear in reality. In response to everyone's incomprehension, Beast replied, "Zombies are a kind of monster in Eastern legends. They are usually transformed from corpses and live by sucking human blood. They are somewhat similar to vampires. And anyone who has been bitten by a zombie everyone will be infected with the zombie virus and become infected into zombies, which is highly contagious." Colossus raised his iron arm. "In this case, I should be their winner, they can't bite my skin." Not to be outdone, Iceman turned himself into ice. "Ha! It seems like they are no threat to me." Wolverine twitched his lips. "It seems that a mortal like me is in danger." For a moment, everyone present showed their disdain for zombies, and the pressure in their hearts suddenly disappeared. Wolverine said, "Then we only need to be careful about Magneto's zombie virus to forcefully catalyze the birth of mutant, right?" When Magneto was mentioned, everyone's expressions immediately became serious. In their hearts, this was an opponent even the zombies couldn't match. However, Professor X and Beast were very dissatisfied with everyone's neglect of zombies. They both believe that zombies are a difficult existence to deal with, although their perspectives are different. Professor Beast, on the other hand, analyzed the genes of the zombies and through a comprehensive understanding of the situation, knew that among the zombies, except for the lowest level black-eyed zombies, all other zombies can awaken one or more abilities. Moreover, once it becomes a zombie, its body will be greatly enhanced. The higher the level, the greater the increase. Moreover, zombies can effectively and steadily improve their own strength. By sucking human blood, they can continuously become stronger, improve their physique, and even be able to awaken new powers while becoming stronger. Professor X seriously interrupted everyone's discussion. "Don't underestimate the existence of zombies, they are different from the enemies we have experienced before." Beast also echoed, "Don't connect legends with reality, let alone regard zombies and vampires as the same species. The zombies that appear now will have powerful physical growth when they become zombies, and they except for the lowest level black-eyed zombies, they basically have awakening abilities, and the abilities can also be enhanced by sucking blood. Everyone was instantly horrified. It would be fine if it was just a simple transformation of a corpse into a zombie, but with the addition of superpowers, the ability that belongs exclusively to mutants, it has already become a huge amount of threat to them. Even Professor. But Beast still hasn't finished speaking. The higher the level of zombies, the more blood they suck, and their bodies will become more and more powerful. The zombies are divided into levels from top to bottom based on the color of their pupils. The highest level is the mysterious zombie, Kazuo Yamamoto, is green, followed by yellow, blue, white and black. The lowest level black zombies can already be damaged by small caliber firearms. As for the white pupils, they are already immune to the attacks of some conventional firearms. As for the blue ones, they are immune to the threat of rocket launchers. Above that, ordinary weapons they are completely immune. Even if they face missiles, although they don't know whether they can resist them, their speed is already fast enough to avoid them when the missiles hit. Beast's expression was extremely serious. He wanted everyone to understand how powerful this sudden race of zombies is. Zombies are different from us mutants. Although our mutants can also become stronger when they are awakening ability, they are different from those who specialize in strengthening the body. Compared with abilities, mutant with awakening functional ability still cannot withstand the threat of a bullet. But zombies are different. In addition to their awakening ability, they also have universal strengthening of the body. Moreover, their awakening ability is not just a single one. Some of them can awaken multiple powers from the beginning. At the same time, they can also, after absorbing enough human blood, he will develop other powers. Professor. Beast nodded. Yes, their body strengthening can also be regarded as a kind of superpower that must awaken. Wolverine took a puff of his cigar. In other words, except for the black-eyed zombies, all other zombies can be regarded as a brand new mutant race, right? Beast shook his head. Zombies are different from humans. According to research, zombies have almost no ability to reproduce, but at the same time they have almost no life limit. This is the most important reason why they can spread quickly among the upper class. Iceman was shocked. So, every one of them is Logan. Or are they Logans with super abilities like us? Beast smiled bitterly. If it were just Logan, I wouldn't have to worry so much, but the strength of zombies is all-round strengthening, without any shortcomings. Their strength, speed, endurance, and physical strength are all far superior to ordinary people. Furthermore, because the zombie genes are inconsistent with mutants, none of them have any effect. The only effective thing is our mutant's gene. Injecting the X gene into the heart of the zombies will cause their genes to collapse and kill them. After hearing this, everyone fell silent. Zombies are too scary. These are 10 monster races with almost no shortcomings. Jubilation Lee also had a solemn expression, but thinking of the movies she watched when she was a child, she suddenly asked, zombies are legendary creatures in the East, so do the Taoist priests in the East have ways to deal with them? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Why didn't they think of this? Beast also slapped himself on the head. That's right. Why did I ignore the Taoist priests in the East? Since zombies are recorded in their legends, they must have had relevant experiences. Lee, it's a good thing that you are of Chinese descent. But how did you think of this when you grew up in the United States? Jubilation Lee raised his head. Movies, I watched a lot of Hong Kong movies when I was a kid, and there were plots in them about Taoist priests conquering zombies. As soon as these words came out, everyone present laughed. Although the process was a bit funny, it was at least a solution. Professor. Okay, Professor. Professor. Got it, Professor. Afterwards, Professor. As Professor. Moreover, X-Men are also busy all over the world to help those mutants who are persecuted by zombies. After all, this is currently the greatest threat to zombies. As for the Mutant Brotherhood, Magneto also received an invitation from Professor X, and received the zombie analysis report that Beast and he produced together. Magneto, who originally just wanted to use zombies as a catalyst, now understands the seriousness of the matter after seeing a more comprehensive analysis of zombies. Humans, zombies. Magneto's eyes were stern, and he said to Nightcrawler, "Go back and tell Charles that I'm waiting for him to come. I hope he won't be kind to women this time." Nightcrawler, who was a little scared of Magneto, nodded and immediately turned into ashes and disappeared. Magneto said to the multiple man beside him, "Inform the Brothers of Brotherhood that a new war is coming. Soon, Professor. The changes in the world have become bigger and bigger because of the emergence of zombies. Zombies are no longer hidden existences. They have begun to slowly appear in the lives of ordinary people. This is because 70% of the upper-class dignitaries in human society are zombies. In order to maintain their rule, they began to carry out positive propaganda on zombies from all aspects, in order to reduce human beings' vigilance against zombies. At the same time, for mutants, which are an absolute threat to zombies, the government has intensified the negative publicity against mutants in the past, which makes life difficult for mutants. I feel even more maliciousness from humans. Mutant, which had quickly lowered its profile after the Dark Phoenix incident a few years ago, finally spent a few years to let the Dark Phoenix incident gradually come to an end and reduce human discrimination against them. But I didn't expect that at this juncture, a new race of zombies would emerge and take down the upper-level officials in one fell swoop, making mutants' life increasingly difficult. In this existential crisis, Professor X and Magneto, two originally opposing mutants, reunited. They help each other, constantly inquire about zombie information, and investigate the first zombie, Yamamoto Kazuo, to know how to solve this problem. At night, at Mutant Academy, Magneto came here quietly alone. Professor X, Storm and Wolverine received him. Walking in the quiet campus, because of the zombie crisis, the entire campus has entered a state of war preparation, so students are not allowed to leave the dormitory at will at night. Looking at the surrounding environment, Magneto had a trace of memories in his eyes. I didn't expect that after so many years, this place is still the same as it was decades ago, and it doesn't feel decayed. Professor. Magneto glanced at Professor. Returning to the topic, Professor. Magneto. This name sounds Japanese, so I also sent people to Japan to investigate. Although there are many people with the name Yamamoto Kazuo, they are not the person who appeared in the White House. Yamamoto Kazuo, a zombie, it's like it appeared out of thin air, it's very mysterious. Wolverine asked, could it be someone from decades ago, or hundreds of years ago? After all, zombies are transformed from dead bodies, could he be the former dead man? Professor, it is impossible to have the powerful ability of Yamamoto Kazuo. Furthermore, according to my friend, even the zombies recorded in the legend must have at least hundreds of years of practice to achieve the strength of Yamamoto Kazuo. Moreover, these are just legends. In reality, there have never been zombies before. Magneto thought for a while. Let's not talk about whether there have been zombies on the Earth, then it is unlikely that Yamamoto Kazuo has transformed from a dead corpse. After all, if he really appeared like this, then why has he been hiding for so many years? And there has never been any trace of him in the world. Professor X looked at Magneto unexpectedly. What do you mean? Magneto also looked at Professor X. You should have guessed what I was thinking, right? Even if you can't see my thoughts. Wolverine looked confused. What are you talking about? What is the origin of Kazuo Yamamoto? Storm Girl understood what the two of them had not finished saying. What Logan, Professor and Magneto are saying is that Yamamoto Kazuo does not exist on Earth, he should come from the universe. Wolverine's eyes widened. So, you're guessing this is an alien invasion? But where's his spaceship? Why does he want to give immortality to those dirty guys? What's his purpose for doing this? Storm Girl guessed. Hank's research has produced new results. He found that the higher the zombie level, the ability to absolutely suppress zombies lower than himself, although it is limited to zombies with direct development. But currently the entire Earth has the source of it is Kazuo Yamamoto, so did Kazuo Yamamoto do this deliberately in order to rule the Earth? Although the Wolverine people are a bit rougher, they have not lived for more than 100 years in vain. If Yamamoto Kazuo is an alien, then he should have his own tribe, and it would not be better for him to directly destroy mankind. Why bother creating so many zombies? Magneto has his own explanation for this. He should be a weapon specially built by aliens in order to cause an irreconcilable war between humans and mutants. This is why his zombie genes interact with our mutant genes. Completely contradictory reasons. Professor Easy as Pie. Magneto glanced at Professor. Only then will the zombie weapon Yamamoto Kazuo be created, thereby enhancing the strength of mankind, so that mutant will never be able to destroy mankind and achieve victory, and the war will continue to proceed constantly. It has to be said that the two of them are old enemies who have been fighting for their whole lives. Even in this situation where strong alliances are needed, they are trying their best to convince each other with their own ideas. Storm and Wolverine have known each other for a long time, so they have long been accustomed to the habit of communicating with each other, so they are very discerning and do not pay attention to these personal affairs. Storm Girl presented another result from Beast's research. Hank said that the zombie virus has some kind of hive consciousness. By isolating the zombie virus, he found that the zombie virus went dormant until the isolation was lifted and the zombie virus became active again. Wolverine immediately said excitedly after hearing this, "In other words, as long as we get rid of Yamamoto Kazuo, we can turn all the zombies back into humans." Storm Girl said with some uncertainty, "Theoretically, this is the case, but Hank cannot guarantee whether it is actually the case. Moreover, no one can be sure that Yamamoto Kazuo is the original mother zombie." Magneto's eyes were sharp. "No matter what, since there is a way to solve this kind of thing, you must try it." When he said this, Magneto had a crazy idea in his heart. Professor X seemed to understand Magneto's thoughts and immediately asked, "Eric, what do you want to do?" Magneto snorted coldly, turned around and walked out of the academy. "Charles, in times of crisis like this, you should make a choice." Professor X shouted angrily, "Eric, that will cause their genes to collapse and their lifespan to be shortened." Magneto disappeared into the darkness. The zombie army already has tens of thousands of people, and humans are on their side. If we want to defeat the enemy, our army must be strengthened. Professor X, I will definitely stop you. Eric. Looking into the deep darkness, Professor. There seemed to be no other choice. Storm Girl and Wolverine also looked at each other, and had some imagination about the brutality of the upcoming war. After a long time, Professor X sighed and let the two men push him back. Wolverine was walking on the quiet road and suddenly asked, "Professor, if we directly organize some elites to behead Yamamoto Kazuo, won't we be able to save those who have not yet awakened?" "Professor, the kings, the smaller our mutants' survival range will be. If it really drags on to the end, then this kind of tragedy will still happen, but we are not the ones taking the lead." After hearing this, Wolverine understood why the two of them unanimously chose to launch a war, and then asked, "Since you knew the cost and agreed to launch a war, why did you stop Magneto's actions?" "Professor, I need you to help me determine where Kazuo Yamamoto will appear as soon as possible. Even if there is only one day, we can save those children." Storm Girl asked, "Professor, can't you even find him?" Professor. Hearing this, Storm Girl and Wolverine both opened their eyes in shock. What a terrible race. Mutants began to take action, especially the Mutant Brotherhood. They captured zombies on a large scale, and then extracted zombie viruses from the zombies' bodies and injected them into every mutant who had not yet awakened, forcibly activating their X genes to gain super abilities. Although the cost is high, through this method, the Mutant Brotherhood's strength has increased by huge amounts. However, this method also has a big drawback, that is, because the genes have been damaged, these mutants whose X genes have been forcibly activated generally have extremely poor physical fitness. Even a mutant who has mastered the super ability of strengthening his body has a very poor personal immunity and can easily get sick. This resulted in that, although these mutants all had their own strengths, they were like Lin Daiyu with the power of Luzetian, both powerful and sickly. And in a place like the United States, especially in mutant, which is usually despised, discrimination is everywhere. Although some of these mutants who have forcibly activated the X gene are voluntary, most of them are not voluntary. After all, mutants are a race that is more discriminated against than black and yellow people, so they naturally prefer to be ordinary humans. The members of Mutant Brotherhood are generally low-level mutants who have experienced various kinds of discrimination. Therefore, these once superior humans have now become mutants like them. Even compared to healthy mutants, they are more like consumption. Used cannon fodder. In this case, although Magneto deliberately suppressed it, these mutants who had the X gene forcibly activated still experienced the taste of their discrimination against mutants. On the surface, Magneto puts a stop to this phenomenon, but in fact he is also a staunch racist. For these semi-finished mutants that are just used as consumables, Magneto is cold-blooded in his heart. Anyway, in his opinion, mutants and zombies are incompatible. Now that the war is imminent, just throw these consumables on the battlefield and let them block the army of zombies. As for their life and death, Magneto does not care at all. The Mutant Brotherhood's actions naturally spread to the X-Men. After all, their actions are anything but low-key. Under the arrangement of Professor. If it weren't for the existence of the external enemy zombies, I'm afraid X-Men and Mutant Brotherhood would fight first. Naturally, the zombies also knew about mutants' actions. Therefore, under the orders of high-level officials, various smear campaigns against mutant began to intensify, causing the entire United States to fall into an atmosphere of impending storm, affecting everyone's heart. The whole society is full of uneasiness and restlessness. The conflict between humans and mutants has been brought to the surface. Now that the two sides meet on the street, the more grumpy ones will take action directly. Soon, in just 1 week, the number of Mutant Brotherhood members increased to thousands, and this number was constantly approaching 10,000 words. Although more than half of them are cannon fodder, this force is enough to subvert small countries, and it can even devastate a superpower like the United States. In Mutant Academy, Professor X contacted Magneto through mind control. Magneto saw that the boy next to him suddenly changed his temperament, and he immediately understood who it was. "Charles, are you contacting me at this time to ask me to accuse you?" Professor X frowned. "Eric, your actions are too extreme. Aren't you afraid that this will split the entire mutant race?" Magneto snorted coldly. "Emergency times require extraordinary plans. Look, hasn't our mutants' power been greatly improved now? Now, we can completely counterattack those disgusting zombies, since they can do it if we can dominate the world, why can't we?" Professor. Magneto glanced at the controlled little brother, and facing the firm eyes, he said calmly, "What's the plan?" Professor. Magneto frowned. "Should it? Charles, I have known you for so many years, but I have never seen you look so unsure." Professor Starman. "Therefore, this attempt must be successful. If it succeeds, then all the zombies will disappear. If it fails, then we need to make long-term plans." After hearing Professor. Magneto chuckled lightly and waved his hand. "Okay, just wait, Yamamoto Kazuo will always show his flaws." Professor X said seriously. "Be careful, because of your strength, your new army is not stable." Magneto smiled confidently. "As long as we go to the battlefield, it's not up to them." After a brief exchange, the two dispersed. Returning to consciousness, Professor. "Yes, Professor. The White House, the President and others are having a video conference with Kazuo Yamamoto. Master, the Mutant Brotherhood has declared war on us." The President showed a dismissive expression. Obviously, he didn't care about the mutants' resistance. Yamamoto Kazuo swayed the red wine glass in his hand, which was not filled with red wine, but fresh human blood. "Your Excellency, since Mutant wants to die so much, then you can help them, and also take this opportunity to finish our zombies. Kingdom plan." Hearing Kazuo Yamamoto's heroic words, the President and others were filled with excitement, but at the same time, they also had other ideas. The scientific advisor asked, "Master, aren't we going to leave some lambs as blood food? If everyone is a zombie, how do we get fresh blood?" Kazuo Yamamoto smiled. "There are so many countries in the world, aren't you accustomed to treating other countries as your own back garden? Just do it the same way as before, but what you need is no longer just those funds and resources, we also need them to become our food." As soon as these words came out, everyone present showed their unconcealable ambition and greed. The President even flattered him. "We admire the Master for his foresight." Yamamoto Kazuo glanced at the President meaningfully and laughed twice. "Okay, let's do it like this. You should be able to handle those mutants, right? I don't need to take action in this kind of thing, right?" The President smiled slyly. "Master, we have been preparing for many years to eliminate mutants, and now we are just waiting for the final test results." Yamamoto Kazuo thought for a while, and then suddenly realized, "What kind of sentry project are you talking about? Can some scraps of scrap metal be used to eliminate mutants?" The scientific advisor confidently said, "Master, don't worry, Sentry is a weapon specially developed to deal with mutants. It can detect the X gene in the human body and kill all mutants. Even if mutants have various abilities, with the Mystique ability we integrated into it, it can independently use the ability to restrain mutant The president smiled flatteringly. Mutants are different from our noble zombies. Most of their abilities are single, and their physical fitness is not strong. For Sentry, they are just living targets that can move freely. Even this time, if it weren't for to achieve the effect of troop training, just relying on Sentry, we can kill them all in one fell swoop, so that there will no longer be mutants on the Earth. Kazuo Yamamoto nodded with satisfaction. Very good, your plan is very good, then I will wait for you to bring me good news. The president and others immediately bowed to the screen in front of them. Master, please rest assured, we will not let you down. Because Yamamoto Kazuo is Japanese, these people learned some Japanese customs in order to please him. Kazuo Yamamoto was obviously very satisfied with the behavior of the president and others. Then I'll leave it to you. After saying that, the screen went dark, and the president and others slowly stood up. They looked at each other and saw the unwillingness in the others' eyes. As noble white people, they had to kowtow to a Japanese. Although the benefits the other party gave them at first made them temporarily forget about it, but when they got the benefits, and they were unwilling to be ruled by the Japanese they once despised. But for now, they have nothing to do about it. After all, the bloodline suppression of zombies is absolute. Unless they break through to the same strength as Yamamoto Kazuo, then they will be able to ignore Yamamoto Kazuo. After all, although this kind of thing is rare among zombies, it is not unheard of. And research in this area is also carried out secretly under their deliberate concealment. Everyone understood it tacitly and did not say these words out loud. They just left quietly to arrange the war with Mutant. On another luxury plane that was flying, Yamamoto Kazuo sneered and looked at the darkened screen. It was obviously impossible for the president and others to hide their ideas from Kazuo Yamamoto, but he did not stop them. On the one hand, he also hoped that these people could really succeed in their research, so that he could also benefit. On the other hand, he knows very well that as the zombie level gets higher, it becomes harder to break through the level restrictions. Although he now has a lot of power that others don't know about, he clearly knows that under those red eyes he can still only be suppressed and kneel to the ground. Tasting the blood in the cup casually, Yamamoto Kazuo's face gradually calmed down. Although I am a little unhappy with the presumption of these white-skinned pigs, but... Feeling the telepathy that has been covering the entire Earth, Yamamoto Kazuo smiled contemptuously. I didn't expect that there was such a strong existence in Mutant. It was a person named Charles Francis Xavier, codenamed Professor X. It goes with the information. The gap between his records is quite big. However, with such a convenient ability and being able to be restricted like this, it seems that he is another person like Kwang Tianyu. When the name Kwang Tianyu was mentioned, Yamamoto Kazuo's expression showed some hatred. Wait, Kwang Tianyu, when I go back, I will make you kneel down in front of me. Underground at Mutant Academy, in front of the brainwave amplifier, Professor I can't find his whereabouts. Wolverine asked, can't we know from other people's memories? Professor Storm frowned. So, we still need to rely on Brotherhood to force Yamamoto Kazuo to come out on his own. Professor X said helplessly. At present, there is no other way. Wolverine angrily showed his steel claws. It's really frustrating. I must make some holes in Yamamoto Kazuo's body. Professor X, there will be opportunities. In front of the White House, under the leadership of Magneto, members of the Mutant Brotherhood marched towards the White House. Because this is where the most powerful people among the zombies gather, Magneto and the others naturally want to catch them all. As for why they arrived in front of the White House so easily, it was naturally because among the thousands of mutants, there were always some people with the ability to teleport. And they were lucky enough to get a mutant that could perform group teleportation. It only teleported thousands of people at once. At the moment, the mutant was already exhausted. But for him, as long as he can see the dawn of solving those people in the White House, he will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Magneto knelt down and said to Mutant, who was still staring in the direction of the White House with hatred, we brothers have inherited your hatred, and I guarantee you that they will go to hell. Upon hearing this, the mutant's life froze instantly and he no longer breathed. Magneto stood up again with a face as deep as water. My fellow mutants, brothers. Humans have persecuted us for so many years, and the hatred between us has long been deeply rooted in our bones. Now, they have become another kind of creature. We are no longer humans, we mutants are the dawn of humanity. Listening to Magneto's impassioned speech, the surrounding mutants showed enthusiasm, and their morale continued to rise. Because the enemy was right in front of him, Magneto didn't speak for long. Soon with his attack horn, the mutant army roared and rushed towards the camp. Although Magneto arrived suddenly, the White House was not unprepared. As early as when they knew about mutants' movements, they had already laid a dragnet around the White House, just waiting for the Mutant Brotherhood to come. Therefore, when the mutant charged towards the White House, countless zombies with cruel eyes appeared fully armed in the direction of the mutant. Since it is night, black-eyed zombies can also fight. Although their own strength is not high, they have the weapons and equipment of the army, and they have certain advantages when facing the mutant army. Kill, kill, kill these filthy corpse monsters completely. Be careful, their weapons and speed are threats. Asshole, they actually have such a hard body. The mutant army and the zombie army collided together. There was no such thing as a military formation or a strategy. Both sides relied on their physical fitness that surpassed ordinary people to engage in head-to-head combat. The black-eyed zombies also use military weapons to suppress mutants remotely due to their lack of ability. Zombies of other levels have relied on their indestructible bodies to run rampant among the mutants, constantly killing the lives of the mutants. Roar, ha 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 ha, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a river of blood. Blood, so much delicious blood. It's a feast. What a queue of zombies. When they came into contact with zombies for the first time, the mutant army was caught off guard because they were not familiar with zombie abilities. Some mutants whose abilities were not powerful and did not greatly improve their physical fitness were quickly torn into pieces, with their flesh and blood flying all over the sky. The zombies who were showered in the rain of blood immediately opened their bloody mouths, exposed their fangs, and showed their fierce looks. Their eyes shining with cold light stimulated the hearts of all mutants. Roar. The beast-like roars brought out the violence in the hearts of all the zombies present. Their movements became faster and faster, and their methods became more and more cruel. For a while, Mutant was defeated step by step. At this moment, a mutant suddenly stood up and waved his hand. Brothers, they are just a group of beasts, don't be afraid of them. As long as you notice their speed, we will definitely be able to deal with them with our ability. Kill. An invisible force suddenly rose from the hearts of all mutants. That was courage and fighting spirit. Kill. Encouraged by this mutant, the mutant army immediately stabilized its morale and began to sound the clarion call for counterattack. After getting familiar with the attack roar of zombies, the mutant army also began to cooperate with each other. Relying on the endless abilities, some zombies who got carried away and rushed too deep were quickly killed on the spot. Although zombies are difficult to kill, after their heads are chopped off, even if they are not dead, they cannot move. Moreover, it is impossible for zombies to regenerate after their bodies are cremated. As he learned more about zombies during the battle, Mutant began to effectively organize some mutants who use the power of fire, thunder, and sunlight, using them as mobile turrets to launch a strong counterattack against the zombie army. Magneto, standing high in the sky, looked at the battle below indifferently, with a smile on his lips. I said, as long as they go to the battlefield, everything is not up to them. The war will make them make the decisions they should make. The mutant army began to effectively counterattack, and the zombies were naturally not to be outdone. Although their abilities were inconspicuous, they were not ineffective. It was just that the zombies themselves were too powerful, and the zombie soldiers wanted to enjoy the blood while fighting the war. The refreshing feeling of spraying can be enjoyed on the other side. For them, this war is not only a massacre of mutants, but also a rare blood feast for them. Therefore, there were not many zombies who were clear-headed and used their powers from the beginning. It was not until they suffered losses and Mutant had a counterattack effect that they corrected their attitude and began to deal with Mutant with all their strength. It's a pity that most of zombies' abilities are used to enhance themselves, and there is still a big gap in the magic specialization like Mutant. Therefore, after facing the mutant no longer in close contact, but in the form of long-range attrition strikes, the zombie army began to become passive. Speaking of which, these zombie armies are currently only peripheral arrangements, mainly black-eyed zombies and white-eyed zombies, with only a small number of blue-eyed servants serving as commanders. When the mutant army broke through the outer defenses, it entered the inner defenses within the White House. There are not many zombies here, just over 1,000, but these zombies are basically blue-eyed zombies, and there are a few yellow-eyed zombies standing in front of the White House, looking indifferently at the wave-like army of mutants. When the zombie level reaches blue eyes, its own strength has reached the level of immunity to conventional weapons, so facing the overwhelming army of mutants, these blue-eyed zombies are not afraid at all. They opened their bloody mouths one after another, showing off their sharp fangs and revealing their cold-blooded and cruel blue eyes. Roar! The sky-shaking roar formed a powerful sound wave, giving the mutant army a disincentive. In the sky, Magneto's eyes became majestic and dignified when he saw that the blue-eyed zombie army was so powerful. However, he did not end up at the moment. After all, the opponent had not yet shown his true combat power, so he naturally had to save some energy. Although they were frightened by the blue-eyed zombie army, inspired by the mutant with the ability to inspire, the mutant army gathered morale again and charged towards the White House. However, as the elites of the zombie army, these blue-eyed zombies have been intensively cultivated with resources. They have turned into afterimages and walked through the mutant army. Except for some mutants with sensory strengthening or speed strengthening, all other mutant can't even see where the blue-eyed zombies are. Intercept them. Reduce their scope of activity. Protect our long-range troops and don't let them break up our formation. Facing a strong enemy, the mutant army quickly adapted and then counterattacked. Even though the blue-eyed zombies were strong and had powerful abilities, their numbers were several times worse than their opponents. After reducing the number of the mutant army, they finally couldn't bear the offensive of the mutant army and retreated. However, the mutant army suffered heavy losses, and the losses of their zombie army should not be underestimated. In the White House, the president and others looked extremely ugly. They were beaten like this by the mutant army even though they had no weaknesses. It was really embarrassing for them. Just activate Sentry. We must not let mutants threaten our rule. An agreement was reached and orders were issued. In an underground base, ferocious robots were suddenly activated and then sent to the surface. The cleansing plan is launched, and the elimination of mutants begins. The war in front of the White House is still raging. Although the individual strength of the mutants is uneven, their numbers are large enough and their abilities are complex enough. Although the individual strength of blue-eyed zombies is stronger than that of mutants, when faced with some mutants with extremely abnormal abilities, it is difficult for them to be opponents. Just like mutant with space ability, the blue-eyed zombies are very powerful, fast, and powerful. However, facing the weird space ability, they are unable to cause any effective blow to mutant, but it is easy for them to do so. Fall into the enemy's trap. After all, the ability of blue-eyed zombies is not enough to break the barriers of space, unless they also have the ability of awakening space. But it is a pity that zombies currently do not have abilities like awakening. It seems that zombies are naturally different from space abilities. Therefore, there is no enemy that cannot be defeated, there is only the right method. Seeing the blue-eyed zombie army in decline, the faces of the yellow-eyed zombies showed strong dissatisfaction. Then, they roared one after another, revealed their true zombie bodies, their evil aura rose into the sky, and quickly rushed into the mutant army at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Wherever it passed, there was no grass. Hundreds of mutants who were caught off guard were blasted into the sky or around, leaving several torn traces in the crowd. Roar! There were roars one after another, and the heart-stopping evil energy suddenly spread to the surroundings. All mutants covered by the evil energy felt their hands and feet become cold, and unspeakable fear arose from the bottom of their hearts. Seeing that the mutant army was about to collapse under the shock of these yellow-eyed mutants, a spiritual power instantly passed through everyone's hearts. In an instant, fear was removed from the bottom of their hearts, and a spiritual defense line was set up within themselves, so that the evil energy released by the yellow-eyed zombies could not affect their hearts. How dare you scare me? Kill. As long as we kill them, we can conquer the world. Kill them all. The world belongs to the mutants. In anger, the mutant brotherhood broke out into an unprecedented unity. All the previous grudges were forgotten at this moment. They had only one purpose now, which was to kill the yellow-eyed zombies in front of them, and then destroy the White House. Kill those zombies in there, so that they can conquer the world and establish a new civilization headed by mutant. In the sky, Magneto, suspended high in the sky, looked at the war below and saw the changes in the mutant army. He chuckled. Charles, you can't help but take action. Then, He focused his attention on the White House. Yamamoto Kazuo can really endure it. Even with the troops approaching, he didn't even show up. Since you want to be a coward, then be a coward for the rest of your life. Victory is just around the corner. Magneto will not let go of the great opportunity to conquer the world just to deal with Kazuo Yamamoto of unknown origin. Opening his hands, giant steel snakes emerged from the ground and then writhed towards the White House. In front of the White House, the zombies and mutants who were fighting fiercely discovered the giant steel snake that was spreading all around. The mutants shouted excitedly. That was the ability used by Magneto of the Mutant Brotherhood. This alpha-level mutant has, after years of training, brought its ability close to the highest alpha level. As an existence that can pose the ultimate threat to human civilization, Magneto at the moment has not suppressed his own ability at all, and fully drives all the metals he can control. Although Magneto himself understands that what he can control is the original magnetism, it is still too difficult for Magneto to really control the magnetism to destroy a planet and change a landscape through the magnetic field. Therefore, Magneto has always used this ability to manipulate metal, so that he can save a lot of energy and create more powerful attacks. Just like now, how could Magneto, as a stage person, let go of creating a huge amount of display stage for himself? Those giant metal snakes rolled in the ground, destroying everything in front of them. Under the control of Magneto, these giant metal snakes bypassed the mutants, and completely swallowed up the zombies blocking them. Although the zombie's body is extremely tough, under the power of dripping water through stone, whether it is a blue-eyed zombie or a yellow-eyed zombie, they are all torn into pieces and there is no possibility of resurrection. The ultimate goal of these metal snakes is obviously the White House at the center. In the White House, the president and others looked at the mighty attack in stunned silence. The overwhelming wave of metal surrounded them, giving them no chance to escape. Because, the roof of the White House was completely lifted, and Magneto was floating above them like a god descending. In panic, they didn't even transform into a zombie, they just stared blankly at Magneto in the sky, like prisoners waiting to die, expecting the judge to let them live. However, this kind of thing is obviously impossible. Magneto has a deep hatred for human beings, and for the government that has always seemed to be repetitive, but in fact has always been full of discrimination against mutants. He has long wanted to cut them into pieces. It's over. It's just that X-Men blocked it before, preventing him from having this opportunity. Now, the emergence of zombies allowed him to seize such an opportunity. Although the initial purpose was to force out Kazuo Yamamoto, since the other party did not dare to show up, it would be good to deal with these minions. Moreover, without these people, no matter what Kazuo Yamamoto wants to do, he will lose the opportunity. Magneto sneered and stretched out his hand to the president and others. The metal wave instantly blocked the sky and covered the entire sky of the White House. At this time, the scientific advisor's face suddenly changed. Eric, this is completely inconsistent with our plan. Magneto continued to sneer. Charles, Kazuo Yamamoto has become a turtle, and they have become zombies and are no longer human beings. They have even massacred our compatriots. Now, you have no reason to stop me. With that said, completely ignoring that Professor. Professor. This knife directly expelled Professor. However, this time, Professor Magneto's actions, on the other hand, are also to seize the opportunity and find the whereabouts of Yamamoto Jumi from the mind of the scientific advisor. The White House was buried by countless metals. This time the war between zombies and mutants ended with mutant winning. Although there are only some zombies at the top of the White House, the yellow-eyed zombies still in stock elsewhere have begun to tremble, because after this war, the pattern of the entire world will change by huge amounts, and it is impossible to say that it will destroy the world. The World War will really start. Definitely, assuming no accidents happen. In front of the brainwave strengthening device below Mutant Academy, the district teacher took off the brainwave strengthening device on his head with a look of pain on his face. Storm on the side immediately stepped forward to ask and check, "Professor, how are you?" "Professor, I already know where Kazuo Yamamoto is. Let Hank invade the satellite of the US military. Kazuo Yamamoto is on a plane that keeps turning in the sky. Also, we must immediately collect information on the Sentry project, and find the weaknesses of the Sentry, otherwise the entire mutant race will fall into a life and death crisis." Hearing Professor X's words, Storm was shocked. Project Sentry. Has the US government not given up on this plan yet? Professor. Storm's eyes widened in shock, in disbelief. Oh my God, they will go to hell. The information obtained by Professor. However, for the Sentry plan, Yamamoto Kazuo is no longer so important to him at this moment. Magneto clenched his fists angrily. Believe our Trask, even if you are dead, do you still leave behind such a cruel murder weapon? As the news of the White House's defeat spread, the entire United States fell into great turmoil. Countless people began to hoard food and weapons, and various $0 purchases were carried out on the streets. At this moment, it seemed like the end of the world, and the entire United States became extremely chaotic. In this case, zombies came to people in a high-profile way. While they promoted the greatness of zombies, they encouraged people to join them. After all, they have immortality, can survive only on blood, and can also possess extraordinary power and other benefits. Moreover, the current chaos is caused by mutants. Their zombie genes are the nemesis of mutants, so mutants raided the White House and killed the president and others. It can be said that under the propaganda of the surviving dignitaries, the situation of mutant did not improve due to this war. Instead, it completely turned against human beings, causing everyone to cry for a fight. For this result, Magneto is also very rogue. After all, because of the Sentry incident, he simply did not have time to deal with these political matters, so he gave those zombies a loophole. Although he was very unhappy with this result, due to the current situation of mutant, Magneto could no longer care about the zombie smear campaign. Because Sentry has begun to massacre mutants and humans with X genes who have not yet awakened. It has to be said that as the crystallization of human technology, Sentry has a very keen scanning ability and can easily determine whether the X gene is present in a person's genes. At the same time, Sentry, which incorporates the ability of Mystique ability to carry out countless changes, is the absolute nemesis of mutant. It was only a small scale at the beginning. After all, although Sentry was successfully developed, it has not been verified and improved, so only a few have appeared on the ground, and they are all laboratory products and have not reached mass production degree. Therefore, because these Sentry were not put into the frontal battlefield, they faced some low-level mutants. Their abilities are not strong, and most of them are discriminated against and ignored. Sentry can easily deal with them and collect various data for adjustment. Many families with mutants have suffered because of this, because Sentry targets people with X genes, not just awakened mutants. Therefore, when Sentry woke up, it immediately killed William Stryker, who created and improved them. This man who has devoted his life to destroying mutants actually also has the X gene. Because Sentry's ability was too unbelievable, and William Stryker was crazy, the president and the others did not let the zombies flow here, but just let Stryker target the mutants. Because of Stryker's high status and his long-standing hatred for mutant, no one, including himself, would think that he was a mutant, so he did not perform a genetic scan on himself. This resulted in Sentry's first awakening. He killed the only person with the X gene in the base, who was also the highest commander in the base. Although the result was somewhat darkly humorous, the people in the base were stunned for a moment and then stopped paying attention to the dead Stryker. Instead, they began to improve Sentry according to the instructions of the people above. As for them, if the crazy Stryker is dead, then they will naturally have the chance to become immortal zombies. As long as the mutants are eliminated, they zombies will become the most noble existences on Earth, and others will always be trampled under their feet. Although the president and others ordered Sentry to join the battlefield and protect them, the plan could not keep up with the changes. They died too quickly. They must maximize their profits. Only then did the news of Sentry's dispatch not arouse any response, and Mutant's voice, in the current situation, has no support from humans, so naturally no one listens to them saying this kind of thing for ordinary people. Science fiction joke. After all, a robot that can accurately kill mutants would easily become a joke in a science fiction movie. In this chaotic and crazy situation, Sentry rapidly evolved with the lives of countless mutant families, reaching the peak level step by step. Through the study of mutant, these secret researchers have constantly developed countless incredible technological products to further perfect Sentry, whether it is basic materials, energy storage methods, conversion functions, etc. In just 2 weeks, Sentry has reached the most perfect state and finally entered the mass production stage. As for why their base has not been discovered by Mutant, after all, knowing that there is Professor X in Mutant, this research base is naturally well prepared. It is worth explaining that it has not been discovered for so many years. If it weren't for the fact that the White House's scientific advisor had his brain invaded by Professor achieved extremely impressive results. If you can hide it for decades, then hiding it for a few weeks is not a problem at all. Therefore, although Mutant tried its best to solve Sentry's problem, it was a pity that although X-Men and Mutant Brotherhood destroyed Sentinel countless times, it was relatively easy from the beginning. Later, when Sentry quickly iterated, they became more and more difficult. The more difficult it became, the more casualties began to appear. They all have accumulated hatred in their hearts, but the Sentry plan is too hidden. These Sentinels appear from different places every time they are dispatched, and they are all one-time use. They will not return to the base for maintenance or upgrade. Destroy it or be destroyed in battle. Therefore, X-Men and Mutant Brotherhood pointed the finger at Kazuo Yamamoto. As the source of all zombies, as long as we catch him and use his power to suppress other zombies, we can fundamentally solve all these problems. After several weeks of searching, although Yamamoto Kazuo had hidden deep enough and had encrypted his whereabouts, it was very difficult for Beast and the others to search. But relying on his clever mind, Beast still spent some time locating Yamamoto Kazuo's location. Now that they have found the rightful owner, this time they will solve all the problems. With hatred and hope, X-Men and the Mutant Brotherhood organized an elite team. After all, both sides have suffered heavy losses in personnel in the past few weeks, and it concerns the entire mutant race and the mysterious zombie Yamamoto Kazuo. They must be cautious and careful. Even this time the two parties cooperated. The team was led by Professor X and Magneto, who were collaborating again after decades. Sitting in the fighter developed by Beast, Magneto looked at Professor X. "Charles, you are not allowed to stop me this time." "Professor," Magneto snorted coldly, "I hope your ability will be effective in this operation." Professor X sighed. It is not easy to break through his spiritual defense. Magneto said unceremoniously, "Then work hard to complete it, all of our lives are in your hands." Professor X's eyes became firm. "I know." Subsequently, the two ended this tit-for-tat dialogue and began the daily review of the past by the elderly. As Wolverine, who has lived longer than Professor. The other mutant elites, at this moment, have faces full of hatred, perseverance and fighting spirit. Even some mutants who look extremely young have already left hideous scars on their bodies. This is the result of their continuous fighting in the past few weeks. Gained growth. Not long after, Beast, who was flying a fighter plane, suddenly shouted, "Found him, Yamamoto Kazuo." The mutants in the fighter plane trembled one after another, and then looked forward. An air transport plane of huge amounts was moving quickly in the sky. And on top of the transport plane, a person was standing steadily on the fuselage, looking at them from a distance. By zooming in on the camera, everyone saw the person standing outside the plane. They saw that the person was wearing a crisp suit and a meticulous hairstyle, looking like an elegant aristocrat. "He is Kazuo Yamamoto." Beast called up the photo of Yamamoto Kazuo he had obtained before and compared it with that man. They were exactly the same. It is difficult for everyone to compare that elegant-looking man with the zombies who turned the world upside down. However, the fact is right in front of them. They can only believe it in, which is hard to believe. A cold light flashed in Magneto's eyes. "Shoot down his plane. Let us go to the ground and deal with him." Beast heard this and looked at Professor X. After Professor X nodded, he immediately fired the bomb at the air transport plane. Boom! A brilliant spark appeared in the sky, and 3 figures fell from the spark toward the ground. "Catch them," Magneto ordered impatiently. However, Beast didn't need him to remind him. He had already controlled the fighter plane to fly rapidly towards the ground, and also locked the radar system firmly on the 3 figures to prevent them. Distance. When the fighter plane hovered steadily on the ground, everyone suddenly realized that Yamamoto Kazuo and others had no intention of escaping at all, but stood there waiting for their arrival. Everyone was slightly stunned by this kind of thing. After all, the previous battle in the White House and Yamamoto Kazuo's continuous avoidance made them think that Yamamoto Kazuo was just a tough guy. It was easy to deal with him. It was just a matter of calling so many people, just to prevent him from escaping. However, Yamamoto Kazuo's performance did not seem to be frightened at all, but he was eager to give it a try. Magneto walked out of the fighter plane impatiently, and Professor X quickly reminded, "Be careful, Yamamoto Kazuo may be stronger than we thought." Magneto snorted coldly. "No matter how powerful he is, we must capture him." Immediately, he fell to the ground, and the other mutant elites also walked out of the fighter plane, leaving only Beast and Professor X still in the fighter plane. Magneto led these mutant elites and walked not far in front of Yamamoto Kazuo. "Shut up, you are finally found by us." On the land, the mutant elites headed by Magneto are frequently attacking the 3 zombies headed by Yamamoto Kazuo. Facing extremely fast zombies, Quicksilver was also found again by Magneto and others, and he also received a set of equipment specially designed for him by Beast. Opposite me, I saw a female zombie with bulging front and back, revealing ferocious fangs, and her yellow eyes were full of cold-blooded and ruthless meaning. Roar! The female zombie roared, stepped down, and the ground cracked instantly. At the same time, she rushed towards the mutant elites, so fast that they could not be seen by the naked eye. In response, Quicksilver curled his lips, clenched the knife in his hand not to be outdone, and then moved his feet, and the whole person disappeared in an instant. Before anyone could take action, the female zombie and Quicksilver had already collided with each other dozens of times. Sparks flew everywhere, swords flashed, fists flashed, and the 2 sides were evenly matched in speed. No one could do anything to help the other. Although the speed of zombies is indeed very fast, it has its limits. After all, it only relies on the bonus of physical fitness, which cannot be compared with the super ability of Quicksilver. Moreover, Quicksilver has dealt with some zombies before. With his unparalleled speed, he is completely able to play with those zombies. After all, no matter how powerful he is, if he fails to hit, he will never gain an advantage. Quicksilver's super ability is super speed, which can easily break through supersonic speeds. After so many years of accumulation and development, Quicksilver's speed is such that when it enters super speed, everything around it seems to stop. However, today he met his opponent. Female Zombie Awakening's ability is also about speed. Although it is not as incredible as Quicksilver, she can barely keep up with Quicksilver's speed based on her physical fitness that far exceeds Quicksilver's. Moreover, the most powerful thing about zombies is their growth. They can adapt and evolve little by little in battle. Especially when they are at a disadvantage, as long as they are not killed instantly, they can evolve their abilities driven by their emotions. The battle between the female zombie and Quicksilver is basically like being in another dimension. Others can't see it and can't help it. They can only target the enemy on the opposite side. Magneto was the first to take action, and all the metal under the earth was pulled out by it. When anyone took action, the ground shook, and the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. Seeing that Magneto had already taken action, the other mutant elites were naturally not to be outdone. Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Iceman, Sunspot, Shadowcat, Mimic, Blink, Bishop, Juggernaut, etc., all ran towards Yamamoto Kazuo and the male zombie beside him, using their abilities at the same time. Yamamoto Kazuo showed a contemptuous smile, not paying attention to the attacks of many mutants, while the male zombie beside him roared and quickly completed the transformation of the zombie's true form. The whole person jumped on the spot and stood up from the ground. The nails on his hands instantly grew longer and his body doubled in size. Boom! Like a meteor falling to the ground, more zombies instantly smashed into the mutant elite like a cannonball. The earth, which had been torn apart because of Magneto, turned into ruins at this moment. All the mutants were caught off guard and were thrown away by the strong impact. Fortunately, they were experienced in many battles and had extraordinary abilities, so they were not shocked by the male zombie's greeting. Before some of them could stand firmly and land on the ground, they concentrated their energy and blasted towards the male zombie. Iceman's Extreme Freeze, Sunspot's Energy Blast, Mimic's Cyclops, Bishop's Energy Rays, etc. All kinds of energy attacks fell on the body of the maid. Storm, Wolverine and others rushed towards Kazuo Yamamoto. Magneto also ignored the male zombie. His target was also Kazuo Yamamoto. Seeing that his 2 proud men were restrained so easily, Yamamoto Kazuo twisted his neck and loosened the tie around his neck. It seems that I still need to take action. I saw that he did not turn into a real zombie. Facing the mighty attacking mutants, Yamamoto Kazuo just chuckled and disappeared immediately. He is not one of those guys who turned into a zombie not long ago. These people don't know the experience of Yamamoto Kazuo, let alone how many trump cards Yamamoto Kazuo has. Seeing Kazuo Yamamoto disappear in place, the mutants were instantly shocked. Wolverine said in horror. No, Yamamoto Kazuo's ability also has super speed. However, it was too late for him to say this. He only felt a pain in his chest, and instantly vomited blood and flew out behind him. Boom! Smashed heavily into the ruins, Wolverine got up with difficulty. When he looked down, he saw a bloody hole in his chest that could be seen behind. If his bones were not wrapped in adamantium, even his chest ribs would have been damaged. All were crushed. This fierce attack made the mutants present tremble with fear. They don't have Wolverine's near immortality ability. If they accidentally get hit, they may die on the spot. Everyone looked at where Wolverine was standing before, and saw Kazuo Yamamoto standing there calmly. He flicked his hand, and his red-stained fist immediately left a shocking trail of blood on the ground. Magneto was in the air and calmly shouted, "Wolverine, hold him down, others attack with all their strength. Storm, you are the main attacker and must limit Yamamoto Kazuo's speed." Clear. Attack. Magneto gave an order, and Flash took the lead to take action. A portal appeared in front of Wolverine, and on the opposite side of the portal was Kazuo Yamamoto. Wolverine did not wait for his body's injuries to recover. His steel claws shone with cold light, and he jumped over the portal and chopped off Yamamoto Kazuo's head. The others, Storm, Magneto, and the others were even more merciless, pouring lightning, metal waves, and various energy shocks towards Yamamoto Kazuo. Faced with this overwhelming attack, there was no blind spot around Yamamoto Kazuo, so it was naturally impossible to leave the attacked place with super speed. Wolverine's steel claw fell first, and Yamamoto Kazuo easily turned around to avoid it. Then, various energy bombardments landed on the place where the two of them were. After Wolverine was hit a few times, he took advantage of the situation to dodge the remaining attacks. As the center of the attack, Yamamoto Kazuo was naturally moved back and forth by the impact of various energies, making him unsteady. In just a short moment, Yamamoto Kazuo's expensive suit had turned into fly ash. Such a mess made Yamamoto Kazuo angry in his heart, and a sullen look appeared on his face. Roar! Roaring to the sky, the zombie's fangs were exposed. Although the zombie's true body was not revealed, at this moment, his evil spirit was overflowing, forming a shield that blocked all energy impacts. It was just a small act of defiance, but it actually forced him into such an embarrassing situation. Naturally, Yamamoto Kazuo was very angry. The body rose into the sky, trying to avoid these energy attacks. However, as the center of the attack, how could the mutants let him get his wish? A powerful bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Yamamoto Kazuo's heart skipped a beat and he immediately raised his hand to block it. Crack! Thunder and lightning were the best at restraining zombies. Kazuo Yamamoto only felt his body go numb, and his whole body instantly fell uncontrollably. After being hit by a bolt of lightning, even the evil spirit escaping around him paused for a moment, and then was completely dissipated under the uninterrupted energy impact. And those energy impacts locked Yamamoto Kazuo tightly in place. Storm's eyes were white, and he was driving his ability with all his strength. The sky was changing, and thunder and lightning like heavenly punishment constantly fell on Yamamoto Kazuo, constantly suppressing him. Not to be outdone, Magneto manipulated countless metals to form a blockade, locking Yamamoto Kazuo firmly to the ground, and controlling his limbs. The waves formed by countless metals constantly impacted Yamamoto's head, trying to knock him out. At the center of the attack, Yamamoto Kazuo was constantly restrained, and the anger in his heart made him almost lose his mind. These days, he thinks that he has turned the whole world upside down, and in order to prevent these mutants from destroying his plan, he has tried his best to avoid them. After all, he had failed once before, so Yamamoto Kazuo felt very cautious. But now, even in the face of these people's attacks, he has realized mutants' true strength after watching mutants attack on the White House. Therefore, he compared his own strength and found that he did not need to be so careful, but to be cautious. He still did not make too high a profile. When facing the mutant elites, he always had the indifferent mentality that if he was found, he would be found. He did not think that the people on the opposite side would defeat him. However, to his surprise, his underestimation of the enemy put him in such an embarrassing situation. Although there is no exorcist in this world to restrain him, Tianlei is also one of the nemesis of zombies, as well as the surrounding ones. Qianli's powerful attack could not hurt him temporarily, but he could still be restrained. Moreover, even if a drop of water penetrates a stone, he will eventually be defeated because he underestimates the enemy. Asterisk. Roaring to the sky, I saw Kazuo Yamamoto no longer hiding his strength at the moment. The evil spirit soared into the sky and directly dispersed the dark clouds above his head. The thunder and lightning disappeared instantly. At the same time, the more powerful evil energy spread directly to the surroundings. The mutant elites surrounding him couldn't control their bodies in an instant and were blown up and flew away. The attack was naturally interrupted. When Kazuo Yamamoto turned his attention to the people around him again, everyone present looked at the drastically changed Kazuo Yamamoto in shock. At the moment, I saw Kazuo Yamamoto with long hair like blood, horns on his head, shaped like a dragon's head, his skin turned red, covered in scales, wearing a devil's cloak, and he no longer looked human at all. At the moment, Kazuo Yamamoto is a completely terrifying zombie monster. Ho 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 ho. Boom 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 boom. Roaring to the sky, the evil energy continuously impacted all around in an instant. Around Yamamoto Kazuo, countless explosions tore the entire earth apart. Seeing Kazuo Yamamoto's evil spirit soaring into the sky and becoming as terrifying as a demon, everyone present stopped unconsciously. Even the two speedsters stopped and stared blankly at the moment. The monster like Kazuo Yamamoto. Is this also a zombie? Iceman felt the oppression coming from Kazuo Yamamoto to him in horror, and felt his body trembling uncontrollably. The other two male and female zombies felt the deepest feelings. Yamamoto Kazuo was originally their direct superior. At the moment Yamamoto Kazuo changed into this form, the suppression brought to them made them unable to have any rebellious mentality. Roar. With a roar, the evil energy began to converge towards Yamamoto Kazuo's body. The change that followed was that Yamamoto Jumi's terrifying oppression made other people present feel it even more deeply. Magneto resisted the pressure and did not fall from the air. What is going on with you? Is this your true face? Yamamoto Kazuo stared with bloodthirsty eyes and sneered. What, you want to know my power? Why don't you come and try it yourself? Magneto's face darkened. Huh. So what if we don't tell you? No matter where you are from as an alien, as long as we catch you, we can completely defeat your plan. Aliens. Yamamoto Kazuo was stunned for a moment, and then burst into laughter. Your imagination is really good, but unfortunately, you are wrong. But it doesn't matter, since you forced me to use this power, then let you die gloriously in my hands. Roar. With a roar, Yamamoto Kazuo took steps instantly, as fast as a space transfer. He was at Magneto's side in an instant, and his fist covered with flame-like scales exuded a hot breath and blasted towards Magneto's chest. However, at the moment Magneto was surrounded by metal, and he had long been on guard against Yamamoto Kazuo's sneak attack on him, so the moment Yamamoto Kazuo disappeared, Magneto had already controlled the surrounding metal to rotate around himself, forming an airtight defensive net. Yamamoto Kazuo's fist landed on Magneto's defense net, and the struggle between the two sides actually triggered an electric current. This shows how intense the collision between the two sides was. Magneto stared into Yamamoto Kazuo's yellow eyes that were close at hand. So you are not an alien? Yamamoto Kazuo said with a bloodthirsty smile. Definitely not, I am a zombie. I am the zombie god who will turn everyone into zombies in the future and create a zombie country. Magneto's eyes filled with coldness. God. No one likes this kind of thing nowadays. Besides, how can an ugly guy like you be a god? However, Kazuo Yamamoto was not at all angry at Magneto's disparagement. Ugly. This is what the zombie god should be like. As long as we zombies master the extreme emotional will, we can perform far better than we do now. Level of strength. Master this kind of power. Except for the same existence, no one in this world can defeat me. After speaking, extremely complex emotions gradually appeared on Yamamoto Kazuo's face, including hatred, sadness, memories, and tenderness. Magneto looked into Kazuo Yamamoto's eyes. He had never thought that one day he would be able to see such complex emotions in a pair of eyes. However, he also captured the key information in Yamamoto Kazuo's words, again. Someone has defeated you before. At the moment, Magneto had personal experience of how powerful Yamamoto Kazuo was, but it was unbelievable that someone had ever defeated such a powerful Yamamoto Kazuo. Yamamoto Kazuo put away the complexity in his eyes and looked at Magneto with a sneer. Have you noticed? But it doesn't matter. You can't see them in this world. It's impossible for them to show up to help you. This world, an idea suddenly appeared in Magneto's mind, which he couldn't believe. Others also heard these words and had similar guesses in their minds. On the fighter plane, Beast's eyes widened. Professor, it's not what we thought, right? Professor. Beast was amazed. Our guess is too conservative. In fact, this kind of thing should have been thought of a long time ago. After all, zombies have never appeared on the Earth, but there are records left, indicating that zombies have visited the Earth before, or they are traces left by quantum entanglement in other worlds. Professor. Beast frowned. We can kill other zombies. Although Yamamoto Kazuo is a little stronger, if we work together, it is not impossible to kill him. Professor X's expression was full of worry. I hope so. In the air, Yamamoto Kazuo sneered. Okay, the chat time is over, I have told you the information you want. Next, just give your life for my zombie country. In an instant, Yamamoto Kazuo's combat power was at full strength. He suddenly released a powerful evil spirit, blowing away the surrounding metal. At the same time, he waved his fists repeatedly, and shots of amazingly powerful energy continued to fall towards the surroundings. Magneto, who was closest to Kazuo Yamamoto, was the first to bear the brunt. Because the surrounding defenses were blown away, Magneto's middle door opened wide, facing Yamamoto Kazuo's terrifying energy attack. In desperation, Magneto immediately directly controlled the magnetic field and formed a magnetic field protection in front of himself, urgently blocking Yamamoto Kazuo's attack. However, affected by the aftermath of the attack, the elderly Magneto inevitably suffered the impact. He staggered from the air and fell to the ground. His chest felt tight and a mouthful of blood rushed up. Even Magneto had this result, and the others performed even worse. Except for a few physically powerful mutants, all the other mutants inevitably screamed in pain and were knocked to the ground by energy attacks. Fortunately, relying on powerful superpowers to offset most of the energy attacks, the group did not let them die. But even so, some severely injured mutants are already lying on the ground unable to move, and their injuries are even more terrible. If they are not treated as soon as possible, their lives may be in danger soon. Professor. Shuang immediately followed the instructions after hearing the words. Although she was also a little injured, but with the ability to open the portal, the injuries she suffered were not that big compared to others. Similar to it is Shadowcat, whose ability to pass through everything makes Shadowcat take less damage than Blink. While Flash was busy sending all the unconscious wounded to the fighter plane, Yamamoto Kazuo's laughter was wandering around. What? Isn't it grandiose? Why can't you even resist? I'm so disappointed. Is that all you mutants have? Iceman punched the ground angrily. Although he could transform into elements, he couldn't ignore Yamamoto Kazuo's energy attack. Yamamoto Kazuo's words not only made Iceman angry, but other mutants were also full of anger. However, Professor Consequences. Although the mutants calmed down, the zombies did not. Yamamoto Kazuo was not very interested in people who did not resist ability, so he winked at the two men on the ground, then gently fell to the ground and quietly looked at the strongest of these mutants. How the existence died here. The male zombie and the female zombie enthusiastically accepted Yamamoto's orders. Yamamoto's strength made them ups and downs. At the same time, the zombie form demonstrated by Yamamoto also filled them with yearning. Roar. With a roar, the female zombie disappeared in an instant, while the male zombie rushed towards the nearest mutant juggernaut step by step. The speed of the female zombie was too fast, and at the moment the mutants were seriously injured. In the blink of an eye, the mimic was split into two due to a momentary loss of concentration, and became the first victim of this battle. Blood splattered, and the mimic died so quickly that no one could react at all. A look of annoyance appeared on Quicksilver's face, and then he immediately continued to treat the female zombie regardless of his own injuries. On the other side, although the male zombie was not as fast as the female zombie, his ferocious impact also caused the famously brutal Juggernaut to endure damage like a meteor impact. The whole person was instantly knocked away, and his eyes turned white and lost consciousness. Wolverine, who has amazing resilience, saw that he had lost another teammate. He roared and flew towards the male zombie. Then the two of them punched each other, and the blood from my claws spattered everywhere. The battle was extremely bloody. However, although Wolverine has amazing recovery power, he cannot match the strength and speed of the male zombie, so when fighting the opponent, he always suffers more blows. At the same time, the male zombie has free time to attack other mutants. The same goes for the female zombie. While Quicksilver was still recovering from her injuries, she looked for opportunities to kill the person who could limit her. Juby also took the time to attack other mutants. Soon, with the all-out efforts of the male and female zombies and the mutants being extremely injured, they quickly suffered huge amounts of casualties. Yamamoto Kazuo looked at the carnage displayed for him, his hands spread wide and he looked up to the sky and laughed. Magneto watched all this calmly, thinking calmly about how to reverse the situation. Professor, to resist his psychic ability, he must make the three of them brain dead on the spot. At this moment, a crisp mantra sounded, "All the troops are coming. Formation. Arrange. In front. Punish the evil." A dragon roar that resounded throughout the world was shocking, and then a golden dragon appeared out of thin air, tearing the two male and female zombies into pieces and turning them into fly ash. Yamamoto Kazuo punched the dragon that was close to him back. Looking at the man and woman who appeared with the dragon, he gritted his teeth and said, "Kuang Tianyu. Ma Xiaoling. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."